outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media. Some media outlets publish these stories without checking facts first. Unfortunately, some members of the use these platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
The following is a pattern interruption of your regularly scheduled brainwashing program.
Hi. Welcome to the Reality OS. I'm Peter Duke, and Lauren and I are joined by Ollie Alexander today. How you doing, Ollie?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Lauren and Peter. I think it's going to be a fun show. Maybe
I'm ready.
A meme.
It should be a barn burner, I think.
Oh, yeah. They'll be talking about this one for centuries.
Lauren, how did you want to start today?
So, well, I mean, Ali, it's not like it's a secret. You are a controversial figure and the centerpiece of many, speculations and rumors. And, of course, one of the first comments after I posted the link to the stream was, he's a crook and a phony. Ask him about his fling with Dick Cheney. So, Ali, can you tell us about your fling with Dick Cheney?
My fling with Dick Cheney. Well, I don't think I've ever met Dick Cheney. I've been in politics kind of a long time, 15 years. I'm 36 years old, so it's a long time. The average political career is probably 3 to 5 years. But
really?
They probably mean Karl Rove.
Oh.
So years ago, there was this convicted domestic bomber and suspected pedophile. His name is Brett Kimberlin. Mm-hmm. He lives in the Maryland area, right outside of D.C., and he runs a liberal nonprofit. And he has some fringe bloggers who basically harass people who bring up the suspicions and the evidence of pedophilia in relation to him, and the fact that he's called the Speedway Bomber. You know, it was a very
he was convicted for planting a bomb, right?
Yeah. And going off, blowing off the leg of a Vietnam veteran. That Vietnam veteran committed suicide, etc. And so this guy has essentially terrorized the press into them not covering him, and then conservative bloggers started covering him. And
well, doesn't he have like high profile clients like the DNC?
I don't know. I know that he did do some work on some dossier stuff and some Ukraine stuff, anti-Trump stuff in 2016. So he does have, it's kind of bizarre, you know, there is a little bit of an intersection there. And, you know, if you'll remember back during the, I was in high school and, you know, and then college for just a little while before I dropped out twice. And if you'll remember, there was these like citizens arrest attempts on President Bush and Vice President Cheney. His group was the group behind that. It's called Velvet Revolution. And so, so anyway, essentially this guy has like 2 or 3 bloggers that harass conservative bloggers whenever any of this is brought up. Then Michelle Milken came in and she was like, this is inappropriate. Well, then the homes of 2 of those bloggers were under threat of getting swatted. And so Michelle Milken said somebody needs to come in and organize and help these people. Well, I was the president of the National Bloggers Club at the time. I was really organizing much of the blogosphere. And Michelle Milken and I raised money to relocate those bloggers and make them safe. A year later, I'm like in a lawsuit with Brett Kimberlin. He's suing me for calling him a pedophile. By the way, I won the lawsuit, and he did go to trial. So,
you want to hear something interesting? A sidebar? Yeah. I'm looking for the cover of the book on Amazon right now so that I can put it up. It's gone. Yep. Okay, it's erased. I have a copy of the book. Keep talking. I'm going to get it.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the worst enemies and most evil people that I've actually had to battle in politics. And I've battled a lot of them, you know, James Gunn, Harvey Weinstein, and, you know, and you know, in the culture war that we're participating in. But anyway, this brain injured blogger called Bill Schmalfield, he just randomly one day said, oh, it was a picture of like me in my apartment. He said, Ali was in a hotel on this date. and Karl Rove was in a hotel on this date.
Ooh.
And even though I was in Ohio and Karl Rove was in, I think, Washington, D.C. or New York on election night of 2012 when Mitt Romney lost like a dog, they just started this crazy, stupid rumor. Ali got his start in politics because he slept with Karl Rove.
Well,
and it was like so stupid it wasn't worth responding to. This guy gets 5 views. Well, what happens when you're on the internet for a long enough time is, people get in a fight with you. They've never heard of you. They Google your name.
they look you up.
Yeah.
And it eventually came up.
Yeah.
Boy, how fun.
So I've met Karl Rove once in 2010 in Savannah. He was at a press conference and I attended it. It was at the local party headquarters. Beyond that, it's kind of funny, but it's kind of stupid. It's mostly stupid to me.
So I found the book.
I guess you could say things are getting pretty serious between the two of you then, Allie, right?
Well, I mean, I'd appreciate a handout. I'd make a lot more money if I slept with Karl Rove. Maybe he would pay all my legal bills. I could use a sugar daddy right now. Someone get in touch with me.
Jeez. Yeah, no, I can't even imagine, man. So you got your book, Peter, so tell us about it.
Well, it's just a book that describes all the things that Ollie is just talking about. So he's like not making this up. There's actually a legitimate book. However, one of the things that's interesting about Kimberlin is that he's incredibly aggressive with lawfare. So he was trying to sue you or serve you for years, right?
Yeah, and 4 different lawsuits. So I survived 4 different. Remember, Michelle Malkin asked me to raise money for bloggers because they have to flee their homes.
Right.
I raise money because I'm an organizer. I'm just really good at
You're really good at it.
And so I help these bloggers, and then, they, I get this like kind of threatening email that says, hey, if you continue to help them, we're going to out the mugshot that you had when you were 20 years old. And I was really nervous this was going to end my career, but I was like, well, this is a good thing to go out on. Back then, if you had been, charged with a crime or like that, you couldn't work in Republican politics. I survived because Michelle Malkin. I survived because of Jim Hoff. I survived because of Melissa Clothier at the time. I survived because a lot of people in what we call the blogosphere,
right?
Were like, no, Ali's our guy. And so anyway, but I did end up going to trial once with this guy. Maryland improperly, in my opinion, exerted jurisdiction over me, and we went to trial. And I fired my lawyer the morning of the trial. And it was a legal tactic. It wasn't because I didn't like him. It was a legal tactic. And we beat Brett Kimberlin's ass into the ground.
He wasn't he going after Andrew and Lee Stranahan also?
Yeah, so I was.
You were part of a good club.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what's so crazy when people, especially this started on the left, and then when it migrates to the uninformed, Q right or whatever you want to call that thing. I don't want to say conspiracy right because I like the conspiracy right. I'm a conspiracy theorist, but like these people, they say. You got the wrong skin color. You were born Ali Akbar because he had an Arab father. You have a mugshot. How the hell did you achieve all the success in politics? And I just want to tell you, if you say that, you're actually limiting yourself. You're capable of everything I'm capable of. I just work 18 hours a day for the past 15 years of my life. Well, I wouldn't say 18. 12 to 18 hours a day is what, is how hard I work, and everyone's capable of that. So when someone says, if you have a mugshot and you're black, you can't be in the upper echelons of the party, I'm just like, if you think that, you probably limit yourself. And Kanye talks about this and stuff like that. So anyway, what's funny is I went to battle for other people against this evildoer, this pedophile convicted bomber, and now years later, I'm having to deal with people who have suspicions about themselves and then project that onto me. And so, it's kind of like no good deed goes unpunished. But I think that is actually the point of living. Like, we're called to long suffering. And I think that maybe I should have years ago combated these stupid, I wouldn't even call him a rumor because the guy was getting 5 views on his blogs, but maybe I should have, you don't want to amplify stuff, but you also don't want to dismiss stuff. So anyway, I still have to deal with that to this day, is that because I beat this convicted bomber and pedophile and saved people's lives, families' lives, in the conservative blogosphere, I'm having to deal with Q people who, say all kinds of wild things about me. Oh, he wears orange because he wants an orange revolution. And I'm just like, well, I'm going to wear orange more now, so that's my story.
If you go hunting, you're already dressed. So there you go. No, every time I've ever, we spent time together just like briefly in Atlanta last year, or 2 years ago. Geez. And yeah, you're always in orange. So, well, I guess if we're,
1 year ago.
What is time even? But while we're on difficult topics, and you kind of brought it up a little bit. So you have been arrested previously. Yeah. Do you want to say anything about that? Or because people tend to see that as like a reason to not trust someone. I don't know. I don't really have a good question to go along with that. But if there's anything you'd like to clear the air about, go ahead.
It's something that I've talked openly about since it got outed in 2012 because of this Brett Kavanaugh thing. So one thing also, and the reason why I think I was so popular on Periscope and Twitter is because I work professionally in politics. I don't work in commentary. And a lot of people think I'm an alternative to Mike Cernovich or an alternative to Ben Shapiro. I do that for fun. But I'm a political professional who works for PACs and campaigns and nonprofits and then businessmen and women, I guess. And so I explain the mechanics of how things work. And I've really tried to understand, how people link the two issues together. And the best way I understand it now is that imagine being really popular in 2012. Then imagine being really popular in 2016. Then imagine in 2020 tripling your audience in a month. And so there's some re-education to your own audience and then to the general public. And millions of Americans are becoming familiar with me from November 4th through January 6th. And then millions more, tens of millions more after that. So what happens is that I'm having to re-explain my story. I have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of followers. I don't like using the word fans, who will say, no, we've heard Ollie's story. And then it's like, well, why won't he tell his story again? It's just like, oh my gosh. But it's really simple. I hate authority. And growing up, 19 and 20, I collected basically 2 petty offenses. I was actually the associate to someone else's crime. And it's in Texas, it's one of only 14 states where it's a felony. I took misdemeanor probation. And people want to say that I've been convicted of a felony. When I went on probation, it's called deferred adjudication, and I was on that for 4 years. But I have some nasty mugshots. Maybe we should bring one of them up. But they're horrible. They look like
I've seen them. I did my homework on you.
They look like James Brown. James Brown. My hair is doing all this stuff. And what's funny is I was being trolled at one point by some racists who hated me in 2017 or 16. And what me and my audience did is we put my mugshot silhouette on a T-shirt. We sold it and raised money for black boys who grew up like me without a father. And so, there's nothing I need to hide, but there are things that clearly I don't like re-amplifying every year of my life, especially when I've been so open about it. And it's just, again, it started with the left. When it migrates over the right, that's when it does hurt. I'll admit it hurts my feelings, But but I'll tell you this. In jail, I was in jail for 59 days because I was so idiotic that I didn't even know what bail or bond was. I have a bunch of white friends and Asian friends, and it's like nobody knew what that was. My mother wasn't talking to me. And so I stayed in jail when I didn't need to for 59 days prior to this whole probation plea deal. And I learned
changes a man.
People sometimes
is that why you like Johnny Cash?
Yeah, and Johnny Cash is like my hero. That too. Even though Roseanne Cash, I'm going to deal with that woman. But look, I learned patience in jail, and I was a very impatient individual when I was a young adult and a teen. Very impatient. Now, I can listen to people, and it's served me professionally, and it's made me a lot of money. And also, I think that had I not gone to jail, I would have gone back to school and been one of these establishment shills. And
Right.
I hate school and I hate the system. And I think part of my problem is I'm good at playing in the system and I'm good at leading the barbarians to the gate. So I have the establishment after me half the time. And then I have the barbarians who think I might be a sellout the other times. And I'm like, Jesus has a perfect standard for this. You will know them by their fruits. You don't have to read my mind. You don't have to give a shit about my intentions. All you have to do is, am I chalking up wins for the good or am I chalking up wins for the bad? And I think that if you survey my career, you'll see that I've taken great risk to, federate power in America and teach people on, how to take on some of the targets that are principally on our side, whatever our side is, and hold them accountable, because it's not really about the other side. It's really about us being true to ourselves. And then if we live in a representative democracy, then the rest of it should work itself out.
Well, this might be it's kind of a out of left field or kind of a tougher question, but so is there any point in your political career that you feel like you handled it poorly or wish you would have handled it differently? I mean, I'm sure there's plenty, but like, is there any time where you could, I guess, point out and go, yeah, I have made mistakes or I have done the wrong thing, and this is like where I learned from it, or I don't know.
That's a really good
Sorry,
question.
I know that's kind of a big question, but you can think about it for a second if you need to.
I catch flack for working with the John McCain campaign in 2008. And I have no regrets against that. I'm a black man who opposed the first black viable guy for president. What other side was there to take? It also was great life experience. Set us up for the Tea Party. That was the first year I was professionally in politics. So, I that's not a regret, but it's certainly something that some people hate. I can be very mean.
How was that? Are you allowed to talk about that kind of stuff? How was it?
Yeah, it was awesome.
Was it? Okay.
I was on the National Youth Advisory Committee. So I don't know how many, there may be 50 of us across the country that were young adults that got to advise the campaign on policies that affected young conservatives and young Republicans. I was excited to be appointed to that. I worked with the McCain campaign on innovating blogger relations. To this date, there's still only maybe 25 of us ever who entered the field, and I pioneered that field. I'm in my field in politics. Like if you go pre-Stop the Steal Ali, pre whatever people think commentary is, pre-Tea Party, I'm pretty well known in the digital field as a guy who pioneered a lot of what people think is commonplace. For example, the reason why you see petitions, this is super wonky and super nerdy, but like the reason you see petitions online side by side, so the text here and the form field here, is because of me. It used to be text here, form fields here, and everything was very vertical. I increased the conversion rate for everybody's campaign in the industry by saying, this is actually how we have to do it. And then other people came in and innovated stuff. So a lot of people don't know that I was the #1 Republican web designer in the country for 2 years. After that, I helped pioneer what was called blogger relations. It doesn't really exist anymore because everyone's a blogger and every comms director is also now doing digital outreach. But back then, comms directors only dealt with print, radio, and TV. And their press secretary specialized in one of those fields. Then guys like me came around and said, I can get you many more hits. I can raise you a lot of money. And so I pioneered that field. That was what's called part of the second wave. Back then it was called online. Then it was called new media. Then we flirted with modern media. And then it became this ominous digital. It didn't become digital until 2012, 2013. So I had 5 years of pioneering Twitter, email marketing. I ran some of the first political clients on MailChimp before there was any political clients on there.
Before MailChimp started banning people for having the wrong
way
ideas?
Before that. That's when MailChimp was just a good old Atlanta company.
Right, exactly.
I really like when my mail delivery service has a political opinion. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
Love it.
So in 2008, I also got to be a staffer at the RNC convention. And that is one of my most famous experiences, or most favorite experiences I've ever had in my life. I was coordinating between Secret Service and the John McCain campaign, identifying Ron Paulers who were messing with our convention. I went undercover to the Ron Paul event and, did some other stuff. And, I was protecting the Republican Party. And it was just a very awesome experience. And I was a huge Sarah Palin fan. And, that definitely divided the campaign. But I was on the pro-Palin side of that debate. And later, I would come to find out, at that debate in Minneapolis, St. Paul, one of my great friends was on the other side. Brandon Darby was actually, he prevented bombs from going off by informing the FBI that these anarchists, and a lot of people don't even know how institutional anarchism is to Minneapolis. People worry about Chicago and New York and Portland. Minneapolis has always had this institutional strain of accepted leftism or anarchy. But anyway, so just imagine this. I'm working essentially RNC, political, and security. And then some guy I don't know is on the opposite end with bombs. Years later, we would become friends because we were both close with Andrew Breitbart. Andrew was a lot closer with Andrew than I was.
Yeah, what's interesting about Brandon is if you really want to see how powerful the media is, there are 2 different documentaries on Brandon Darby. One of them he's a hero, and the other one he's a villain. And I highly recommend to anybody out there, go find those Brandon Darby documentaries and then watch them back to back and see how the filmmaking as a craft can be used in order to create or destroy the public perception of someone.
He still gets death threats for something he did in 2008. Not death threats on the internet, like credible threats to his safety because of what he did. And I'm no huge fan of the FBI. They've turned my life upside down. But it was the right move in 2008 for him to make. And who knows, maybe it saved my life, So anyway, but Lauren, like these are stories to me that aren't worth telling because my audience already knows them, but I understand need to be told. But it's funny because like that's for me, it's a lifetime ago. It's like people are like, well, Ollie's dropping all these names. It's like, imagine if this is what I did full time, then I would really seem arrogant. I would seem a lot more arrogant than people think I am already.
Right.
So it's like, oh yeah, I met Donald Trump in 2014 and we hung out for 3 hours. I was offered one of the first jobs on the Trump campaign I rejected. Oh yeah, Andrew Breitbart sat on the board of my nonprofit. I threw the first memorial for Andrew when he died. Oh, it's like, I don't know what the solution is except for to keep coming on shows like this and, having fun.
Well, I mean, we're definitely going to get to the January 6th. You just testified. We're definitely going to get to that. But I would be remiss if I didn't, for my audience who definitely have some mixed opinions about you. But I would be remiss if I did not do my due diligence and, bring it up at least one time for them. So I appreciate you taking the time to answer the questions. Did you? I lost it. Hang on. So how was, for anybody who doesn't know, Ollie just testified in front of Congress, in front of the January 6th Commission, correct?
Yep, the select committee. The
select committee. How did
it was private. You weren't allowed to testify in public, correct?
Mm-mm.
Right. Me and my lawyers 3 times requested that it be a public testimony instead of a private deposition. It's called an executive session. And it was rejected 3 times. I actually told my lawyers I wanted to do it a 4th time. They were like, let's not piss them off. And I'm like, I think it's important. They don't want a lot of this information public. And I didn't mind anything that I said being public.
Sure.
Because it's all going to come out. But like to Peter, what he said about the
game is, and people can tell me whether or not my audio is fixed now.
Sounds better.
But the game is that if you have to testify in a private or closed session, they seal all of the records. But then that doesn't prevent some congressman like Adam Schiff from leaking.
Who sits on the committee?
Who sits on the committee? Right, but he's
Eric Swalwell.
Yeah, and they're both famous leakers, right? So So what they'll do is they'll take a legitimate comment out of context and then leak it.
Right.
And spin their own story on top of it. So if you're going to testify in Congress, it's probably much better to do it in public, because that way everybody can hear everything in context. So when you get asked to testify in private, you got to be really careful. You got to get out and ahead of it. At one point, when Roger Stone was originally going to testify the first time, George Webb gave him the advice that he should just disclose everything that he thinks they're going to ask him about before he goes and testifies, so that they couldn't seal it once he had gone in there. And that's exactly what he did. And I think that probably kept him out of jail for an extra year, just that one strategy. But
so I gotta ask you this, Ali. What is the reasoning behind cooperating with the January 6th Commission? Is there seems to be kind of a mixed opinion about whether or not you can refuse to or not, and some people have kind of been dragged there kicking and screaming. Is there any sort of light you could shed on that for us?
Yeah, I can say that first on the outset. I respect my friends who are choosing to use their constitutional rights to prevent being compelled from giving testimony. I totally support them. They're still my friends. And it's the right thing to do for some people. For me, the consideration was I had the right to invoke the Fifth Amendment. Sorry, my dog's chewing up something. But I had the right to invoke the Fifth Amendment. But it was also because I'm the second probably most. I'm the second or third most deplatformed person on a very technical level, but on a very substantive level. Whereas my content being disseminated, I'm actually the number one deplatformed person in the world. Laura Loomer, Nick Fuentes, Alex Jones, all three friends of mine have platforms that they can use to disseminate and still talk to their old audience. And it has somewhat affected the size, but also not really. Me, I am talking to a single-digit fraction of the audience that I just had in January. I'm the most deplatformed person in the world. And so what's happened is, and then the Daily Beast said I went in hiding from the FBI, and so that didn't help things. Because every other paper reported that. So for me, I was like, I feel the need to tell the truth about some things that the media refuses to write. Right. That the media knows and they refuse to write. And if I read it into the record, then the committee has to choose whether they're going to tell the truth or they're going to repackage their lie. And that's what I wanted, first off. So I wanted to tell the truth. The second thing I wanted to do is I do not believe that I've done anything with the intention of committing a crime. There's nothing I did during those 60 plus days where I was like, let's go commit a crime.
And I was with Ali on many of those days.
Yeah. Not only were you with me, Peter, I was never alone. I may have gone to the bathroom alone, you know. I
don't think that you ever had less than two people with you at all times.
And I authorized a documentary crew to follow us unfettered and so long as they weren't contemporaneously releasing like my conversations with state legislators or congressmen or anything like that, then I was fine with it. So I'm actually the most transparent person on the internet too. And third thing, and this is something I really want people to understand, I really want them to take home because a lot of people don't understand it, including other witnesses. Litigating the Fifth Amendment is expensive, and it does open you up to further criminal investigation. So not only has the FBI and the DHS and Biden's White House turned my life upside down, if I publicly invoke the Fifth, there would be all of this political pressure to reopen closed criminal investigations into me. This has ruined my life.
Right.
I have not been able to work this year. I am probably going to be bankrupt next year. And to think that I'm self-made, worked for everything I've had, and now it's all taken away from me because I started a viral movement, you know, other people would resent that. Me, I just see it part of God's plan. But there have been times, you know, I've cried myself to sleep or not been able to sleep or had to seek professional help or help of the clergy to work through what I'm mentally, emotionally feeling. But litigating the Fifth Amendment, or like Bannon's doing with the executive privilege, that's a $200,000 bill that I can't afford. So
right.
I don't have
and that's the interesting thing that I've noticed too. It's like when push comes to shove, if you want to figure out who the grifters are, somebody was talking about controlled opposition, and I'd like to talk about that a little bit when you're done. But there's a lot of people out there in the world who get attacked, and Roger sold his house, right? Roger got rid of everything that he owned.
His car, his house, most of his possessions. He no longer has. He can't afford his wife's cancer treatment. Trump's not paying those bills. The movement's not paying those bills.
Right. So somebody had mentioned Alex was, he was suing to make sure that he could only had to testify in public. It's like, you could do that if you have a money cannon. You can do that if you're willing to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to make that decision. But if you don't have the hundreds of thousands of dollars, then your options are limited.
Yeah. So effectively, I am being forced against the Constitution to comply. I don't like the word cooperate, even though I've used the word cooperate, but to comply so that I do not go to jail, and then I don't have to get bankrupt through criminal proceedings, which is a lot more expensive, and you lose. These DC judges want to terrorize us, and I'm having to appear before them with other lawsuits. So it wasn't a decision. I've spent, just so we're clear, I've had to spend tens of thousands of dollars I can't afford on my representation before the committee. So I've spent tens of thousands of dollars on computer consultants to retrieve documents that they wanted, lawyers, and all of that. I have had to not compromise, but I have had to violate my own principles. And I have had to very carefully choose, if I have to give a text message between me and a friend, how do I let my lawyers notify that friend so that they're aware, And that's the purpose of this whole charade, is a chilling effect on the most effective organizers on the right. This isn't happening to Ben Shapiro. This isn't happening to most of the TPUSA crowd. This is happening to the most effective people who, without dollars and without coordination from Trump or his White House, said, we are going to go around the country and fight for voting rights, and we're going to chant Stop the Steal. And that's why I'm being targeted. And it really hurts when I watch other people who make money off commentary call me a grifter when I went out of my way not to make money. I went out of my way not to personally profit, and I've gone out of my way. I haven't even raised money for a legal defense. Someone said, Ali's got this video out. He must be begging for money. There's no plug for money. There's none of me asking for money. I am going to have to ask for money. A lot of my supporters have contacted me and said, Ali, please ask us for money. But, the accusations aren't neutral. They're false. They're just totally false. There's plenty of things not to like me for. My tone, I'm blunt. I make fun of fat people. I'm not a big fan of Mormons. I have Mormon friends. And I'm not a big fan of Islam. I have a Muslim friend, So, there's plenty of things to criticize me over. I've got this long chin, crooked teeth, slick back hair, but a grifter, Karl Rove, secretly cooperating with the committee, that's not true. And we shouldn't let the deep state drive us into paranoia. They win that way. They win through our paranoia and our despair and our disorganization.
Oh, for sure. I think one of the worst parts about the right is how disorganized it is.
Yeah, I noticed some comments. By the way, I've been blocking people who are just getting on the chat room and just saying negative things. I don't care if you agree or disagree, but if you're just sitting there and spamming
be constructive. Come on.
If you're going to spam BS, then
can I say this?
Then you're going to be out.
Can I say this?
Sure.
I've
Blocked.
appeared with you once, Peter, and I've said no to ABC, CBS, the biggest outlets in the world. Okay. And so actually, this would be a time for critics of me to ask a question. You can thank Peter and Lauren because I trust them that they won't compromise their own integrity to cover for me, but also that they won't come from a place of maliciousness. So if you're a critic, and you come from this camp or that camp, this is an opportunity for you actually to ask a sharp question.
Sure.
And these guys can put it on the screen, and maybe I'll answer it, and maybe I won't.
Yep. Good. Yeah. Good point.
Gotta keep
I mean,
guessing.
like I said to everybody who is still watching that, I'm not blocking people who are disagreeing. I'm blocking people who are just saying garbage. So
Yeah.
I wanted to bring something up for a second too. Getting back to the difference between you can kind of tell who's opposition and who's not by who's got money right now, who has benefited from all of this stuff and who hasn't. I mean, I can tell right now from looking where you're sitting that this is not the usual Ali set with nice lighting and everything, which makes me think that, oh, he's in an undisclosed location. He's not in his usual place. But I read an essay a few weeks ago called The Power of the Powerless by Vaclav Havel, and he makes this point in the essay that there's a big difference between people who are opposition and people who are opposition are people who play within the framework of the rules. So when you're talking about the agreed rules, so when you talk about Turning Point USA or you talk about Ben Shapiro, the idea there is that they think that elections aren't rigged, or they're assuming that elections aren't rigged, or they're assuming that they're going to vote their way out of it, and they're assuming that they're going to play within the realm of the known construct, which in Havel's parlance makes them opposition, because they're agreeing to play, right? They're
Right.
And he differentiates that from people who are dissidents, and dissidents are people who are saying, "Hey, the system is rigged. I'm not going to play in this system anymore." And to that end, I tweeted out a few weeks ago, I've unregistered to vote because I don't want to be in the position right now where I'm fooling myself into believing that we can vote our way out of this. And one of the things that I thought was very interesting about Stop the Steal and why I joined you and photographed all of the events and followed you around and everything is because I think that dissidents are kind of the way forward. And being a dissident obviously has its downsides, but I have a lot more respect for people who are dissidents than people who are pretending that, if I see, Dan Crenshaw get up and start talking about, or Marco Rubio get up and start talking about how we're going to do this or we're going to do that, and when we take over the Congress, this is going to happen. It's like, we voted for Donald Trump. I'm not even sure that, even though, I supported Donald Trump and I voted for him twice, I'm not even sure that he was actually in control when he was in there. I mean, to the extent, I mean, the Aaron Mate published a story a couple of weeks ago that he was pumping today about how in 2019, the United States droned 80 civilians in Syria. I didn't see that in the New York Times. I didn't hear anybody in the MAGA world talking about it. But
they sure made a hell of a big deal when Trump was dropping bombs in Syria.
But what I'm saying is this happened in 2019. So there was a drone attack. 80 people got killed in Syria, and Aaron Mate, or the New York Times reveals it on November 11th, 2021. I mean, who was in control? Who called that shot?
Yeah.
Anyway, so I got off on a sidebar there. This is where Tracy would accuse me of being spurging out.
I like to listen and then ask questions, so I was just gonna let you go for it. But so Ali, I guess knowing what you know now, do you regret being a part of Stop the Steal, or would you do it? I guess I'll just leave it open there. Do you regret being part of Stop the Steal or starting it, or what are your thoughts on that now?
No regrets. I think that I think it's very important to live a life with no regrets. And the only thing that I think a Christian should be allowed to regret, if they're walking aligned, that something that was disobedient to God and something that hurt people with either the intention of hurting people or a great probability of hurting people. And Stop the Steal was neither.
Sure.
Stop the Steal is a civil rights movement that was not recognized by the superstate or the media. But it was something that said that every man and every woman has one vote and one vote alone, and they should be cast fairly and counted transparently. That's it. And that's why I got criticized. Oh, you're letting white identitarians into your movement. So what? You're letting conspiracy theorists into your movement. So what? I believe that both of those people are entitled to a vote. We're not talking about anything else but the right to vote. And so there's a lot of me that wants to have regrets. My flesh, as we say in the Christian community, wants regret. I deeply want to say, why should I have helped Trump when Jared and Ivanka didn't? Why should I have helped Trump when there was a 1% chance of winning? Why should I have helped Trump when I didn't make millions of dollars or get a book deal? Why should I have Trump? No one's paying my bills now. Why should I be defending people who are participating in some of the rumors and conspiracies about me? It's because it's the right thing to do. And I think, like, to be a philosopher king, to be somebody who wants to steward people and shepherd people, you have to inherently say, like you're hugging porcupines. And it's going to hurt. It's going to poke. It's not going to kill you. And so if they can't get my soul and they can't get me to commit suicide, what's the worst that can happen? I get bankrupted.
Yeah,
that's something I had to, like, intellectually reconcile a month and a half ago. A month and a half ago was the only time I was finally comfortable with saying it's okay to go bankrupt. You did it for the right things, and they haven't taken my mind or my ability to earn money in the future. And they can't torture me this way forever. They can do it for a long time. They're doing it for a long time. But this might be a 2-year battle in my life. I plan on living for 100 years. I plan on having a lot of stories of how I served my country, served my God, or my values. And so no regrets. But I'll tell you, every part of me wants to regret it. But that would be very disobedient, because I felt like I prayed before I did Stop the Steal. I prayed during Stop the Steal. And it was a calling, and it was something that all of us were called to in different ways. You with Maiden Gate, Peter with his talents, and God will use us, and he's not chewing us up and spitting us out, but there is wear and tear. I don't come from the Joel Osteen, side of Christianity where it's all, bubblegum and rainbows. It's, we're going to wear this body out, physically and emotionally.
So, Brian Perez, this is a criticism that I hear from you. And I know that you were very deliberate when you started my experience of you and Stop the Steal is that on the morning after the election, you I think you did a Periscope and you said you were done with politics.
Yeah. And
then an hour later, you announced Stop the Steal. So I'd love to know a little
famous last words.
And you also decided that you were just going to start raising money in your own company because and there were a lot of good reasons for doing that. So maybe you can look at Brian's question here, which is how much of the Stop the Steal money went to help Trump and how much was pocketed? Where can people see how this money was spent? What do you have to say to Brian?
How much money went to help Trump? All of it. The fact that we weren't being paid by the RNC or by the Trump campaign to do the beautiful rallies that we did, to organize people, to get state legislators on board, to get those hearings on board, to get the Dear Colleague letters. We are responsible. I'm just going to say this. Stop the Steal, me and my friends, are responsible for 90% of everything that happened post-election. Mm-hmm. As many people will testify through the White House, who were at the White House, Trump was actually going to concede on 3 different occasions. I stopped that. So the RNC, Laura Loomer tells me that they raised $400 million. I haven't seen how she came up with that number. I am familiar with $250 million. We didn't need to give Trump any money. He had.
But you didn't raise $250 million for yourself.
You understand? Not only did I not raise $250 million, I don't think we ever raised $1 million. And not only did we not raise $1 million, all these other grifter groups that try to glom onto what we were doing raised more than us. At one point, I invite someone very famous, I'm not going to say his name, to speak at the first Stop the Steal rally in D.C., which got hijacked by these women, and people accuse me of hijacking. It's so crazy. And he speaks, and because he thinks I'm associated with these women, he gives them $6-figure checks because he thinks it's my organization. So there have been times where my donors have given other people money, and I didn't ask for a refund. I didn't say I need that money. What we were doing was organizing. I was organizing so much that I didn't have time to go court all this money. It was like, okay, we can put out a tweet. But yeah, the first part of Stop the Steal, the first couple of weeks was going through my business account because I was buying the flights for
me.
Yeah, for you, Scott Pressler, CJ Pearson, all these people. If someone needed a hotel and a flight and they were willing to do a rally, and the agreement was this, we had a retweet sharing agreement, which is how I constructed the viral movement. And then 2, every man was a king of his own state. So I built this federated system where Brandon Straka was in charge of Michigan. Scott Pressler was in charge of Pennsylvania. Some people were in charge of Georgia. Nevada was ran by Courtney, Megan, and Michael. And so I said, no logos of the organization you're with. Run it under just hashtag Stop the Steal. We don't have like some logo that you need put up. And tweet each other's events. And none of you guys are required to tweet out donations. The general public will see it and they'll get it. And I will buy your flights, and I will buy your waters, and I will buy your hotels. And then eventually we bought signs and all that other stuff. So when it started getting way more structured than I felt comfortable with, well, then we formed a different LLC, Stop the Steal LLC, so that I wouldn't be accused of any of that bull crap. And I've been very critical. I work in this business. Nobody knows compliance and speech laws better than, I shouldn't say nobody. Nobody on Twitter. Nobody in the Twitter chatter world. There's probably like 10 or
That's a
20.
pretty low bar to set, but I get what you mean.
Yeah, but C3, C4, C6, PACs, super PACs, I can tell you everything you need to know about it. It's how I make my money. And I've been very critical of how political groups are running C4s as grifter groups. And so someone will call themselves, I'm the executive director of Women for America Last. And then them not tell you that they're the board member making their own decisions on how much they're getting paid, or that money is going spent for presidential suites, champagne, and bus tours that they decide, because they only have audiences of 20, that they decide to fly back home and put a staff on. Stop the Steal was ran differently. There was no staff budget. There was no executive director. There was no board to answer to. It was if another leader didn't like a decision I was making, then we'd all have a conference call about it. And critics were a part of that group. Me and Brandon Straka were not friends before this, you know? And so we made a lot of those decisions together. So I would say that people are mad that we had a little bit of success at the end. We had we weren't successful, but were we able to pay for everyone's flight, hotels, and whatever? And everyone slept 2 to a room. I never had my own room. I never had a presidential suite. I don't recall ever having like an executive suite. And so yeah, I don't know. It's all being worked out. And if anybody donated to Stop the Steal and has questions, we answer legitimate questions to donors. What's funny is it's non-donors who have questions for us, and not for any of the groups that either raise millions of dollars or the groups that hide how they were collecting money or what they were spending on, or transparently spending it on bad things. So, the idea that I should write Trump, the idea that I should write Trump a check is very silly.
Rocky's got his caps lock on. How much have you spent on election fraud? How many lawsuits have you helped pay for? Asks Rocky in all caps.
I think 100% of the there is still a surplus of the Stop the Steal funds. and that's helping pay my legal bills. And then I'll start a legal defense fund, and if that raises money, then we'll shove it back over. Because, by the way, Stop the Steal LLC was subpoenaed by the committee too. So I was there in my personal capacity, and then I was there as the custodian of the records of Stop the Steal. And Stop the Steal LLC and myself in my personal capacity are both being sued by U.S. Capitol police officers who allege that we committed an insurrection and want to Charlottesville us, for $22 million or whatever they want.
Okay,
so,
there's a guy.
Well, I want to answer that question.
All right, okay.
That question. What I want to say is, so the way I see it is, Stop the Steal isn't fighting CRT with that money. Stop the Steal isn't paying Ali a salary for that money. I've made no money this year. Okay, so those things are out the window. And then I saw he asked a question about lawsuits. Like I said, Stop the Steal is covering my legal bills right now and its own legal bills right now as it relates to Stop the Steal. If I get sued for something unrelated to Stop the Steal, then I need to come up with that money independently. But the idea that Roger Stone came up with the mark Stop the Steal, and I have a perpetual license for it, and that I need to answer to other people for how I use my brand is silly. When my donors have questions, I owe them that stewardship. But everybody else, it's like, well, how is Romney McDaniel using that money?
Right, and that's what I would say to Rocky. So Rocky,
this is important. $300 million and not a penny has been spent. A lot of people are confusing the RNC money with my money.
Right. This is what you need to explain that, because if we look in the comments, the people are, and you just started to touch on it, that you would have an event and then somebody would give someone else a check and it didn't go to your organization, right?
Yeah.
So talk about that for Ron and McDaniel.
This mistake that Patrick Byrne made in the Deep Rig film is he had a gentleman from Michigan that says Stop the Steal raised $300 million and we can't get any money for an audit in Antrim County. It was either Antrim or Oakland. Those are the two problematic counties in Michigan. And then my friend, a former state senator up there, even texted me. He's like, I heard you raised $300 million. Could you spend $2 or $3 million in Michigan for an audit? One, that would have been a waste of money, so I never would have said yes. Two, I said, I did not raise $3 million. I didn't raise $1 million. I said, you're confusing that with the RNC. And what people don't understand is Trump and the RNC and his PAC or something like that had what's called a joint fundraising committee, a JFC. And they raised the money. So the RNC got most of that money, and then Trump got a little bit of that money. I'd rather Trump got all that money. But the way that it was set up and it was split, none of that money comes to me. It wouldn't be legal for any of that money to come to me. And so the RNC was using a phrase that Roger Stone and me came up with, and that we are the only people with the license to use. They used that to raise money. We didn't sue them. We didn't see them as cease and desist. We were team players. Everyone was using our phrase. So a lot of people are, and I have to explain this to the committee, they're confusing the phrase and the chant with the organization that I ran. And nothing can be further from the truth. So when
there were people on in the January 6th videos inside the Capitol using that express. I mean, one of the things that in hindsight looks like a giant vector. My problem, and people have heard me talk about this before, with populism in general, is that it's so easily co-opted. You're wearing your orange sweatshirt there. The problem was that anybody who is an agent provocateur, anybody who is a bad guy, anybody who is trying to do bad things, if they're wearing an orange sweatshirt and they're yelling "Stop the Steal," are going to get associated with your organization. And that happened in spades on January 6th.
Yeah, I've seen the accusation. I haven't seen the evidence. I've seen there's a group of gentlemen wearing orange caps. I have one of those. I actually have more than one of those. And one that's a very popular brand. What is it called? Cartridge or
Carhartt.
So anyway, and I bought that when I was in Michigan. I was freezing my ass off in Lansing, and
they're the best clothes when you're freezing.
Yeah. So me and Mike went to Academy Sports or something like that, and I had to buy a new coat and a cap, and by the way, on my company card. And and so anyway, so in hindsight, I see other people wearing that, and I'm just thinking either A, these guys are hunters. Two, they too were cold and found themselves all buying matching hats, or maybe they're psyoping me, or maybe they're fans. But what I've seen from the evidence I've seen in the Capitol, I've seen one person with that cap. And so, you know, or people, I've seen it alleged that orange cap people were the first people to rush the barricades. I've heard that. I've not seen that. And trust me, I've looked at a lot of this footage and I'm like, I don't see this. So, you know, I still don't care because it takes a certain level of fear to believe in something like that. But like, just what if I was wearing the American flag? Is everyone who's wearing the American flag a part of like some nefarious group? Or what if I chose to wear? You have to understand, this is what the left thinks about the red MAGA cap. They think everyone who wears the red MAGA cap is a part of some RICO conspiracy and some criminal organization to, you know, commit harm. Whereas these people, you can see a lot of the people, they're double capped. They'll be wearing a beanie and then a cap. I suspect that most of those people are fraudulent people and not Trump supporters.
Right, and that was pointed out to me on January 5th by my assistant at the time. We were in front of the hotel. We were walking, and it was really cold and rainy that day.
Yep.
And
the only time we had bad weather in DC. I'm not calling it HARP or anything, but it was the only time. The 5th and the 6th were the only times that during all of Stop the Steal we had bad weather. We had brilliant weather everywhere. God had staved off the winter. I mean, remarkably. I mean, we were getting sun everywhere we went, and right. I saw it as a sign from God. But yeah, the 5th and the 6th had bad weather.
So I was walking in front of the hotel on the 5th, which was right next to Freedom Square, or Freedom Plaza. And my assistant, I was walking down the street, and my assistant said, "Those guys are Antifa." And I said, "How do you know that?" And he goes, "Because they're wearing their Trump hats backwards and they have beanies on them."
Bingo.
And I said, "How do you know that?" And he goes, "So it was on a message board. Somebody posted that it was on a message board." So, and I looked at the people, and they didn't look like corn-fed Midwestern people. You know, they looked like crackheads wearing MAGA gear. So,
well, another example was anyone who brought a backpack on the 6th. I'm not calling them bad guys, but I'm saying anybody who's been to a Trump rally, anyone who's been to a rally for any Republican nominee or Democrat nominee or any president knows that you can't bring a backpack into a Secret Service protected area. So if you brought and again, there's plenty of innocent people who brought black backpacks, but you should be investigated by me, you know, and patriots, not by the FBI, you know, maybe. But if you brought a backpack on January 6th, you had no intention of attending either of our rallies. So you're independent, you know, and I found that fascinating. And as a commenter rightfully points out, okay, and here's another conspiracy theory. People have either said, "I'm John Sullivan."
I haven't heard that one. That's new to me.
Like, all black people do not look the same. How deep does this rabbit hole go that I have to answer to? But yeah, John Sullivan should be charged with assisting a murder or manslaughter.
Where's Ray Epps?
Yeah, where's Ray Epps? You know? Yeah.
I hate to. I'm gonna go off camera for just a second to put eye drops in, but I'm here listening, and I'll be right back.
Awesome.
I just don't want to do that on camera. Sorry. You're back.
Anyway, well, I wish you'd asked a question because now I have to make something up.
Well, I'll just say, like, what I want to say is I understand that a lot of people have a lot of questions because a lot of us are hurt, or between the COVID lockdowns and mandatory this and mandatory that, and then the heartbreak of January 6th, a lot of people are like, well, I'm just going to re-review everything. And that doesn't put me above being reviewed. What I'd like to do is I'd like to be judged, if I'm going to be judged at all, by my actions, by my sacrifices, by my lack of profit from what happened, both contemporaneously and the fallout, and the lack of, again, Trump could write a check for all my legal bills, and he's not. The RNC could write a check for all my. I made the RNC $250 million.
Right.
Someone could slide me a check. Nobody is, and I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, if my nightmare came true, my event was ruined. I'm a victim of the people who decide to go into the Capitol, and so it's
sorry, I hate to be off camera while I'm doing this. Hang on, let me finish putting my eye drops in. I'm gonna ask you a question.
All right. Well,
here's a good question. Go
to this one first. Yeah, there we go.
Another question for Ollie. I'm not sure if he can comment on this. One, I appreciate the prudence. I heard the J6 committee is not even legitimate because it is not helping the legislative process. Is that true? In that particular criticisms of it, in my opinion, that's not true. Now, the J6 Select Committee is mostly legally constituted. I consider it illegitimate if we're talking philosophically. But legislative purpose has been determined by the Supreme Court and every federal court as anything. So Congress, and it's a lot like when you're suing someone for defamation, you have to prove that they knew it. Now, there's some where defamation per se, you can prove that any reasonable adult knows it, should have known it, but you have to prove falsity. So unless you literally get a text message from Chairman Thompson to Nancy Pelosi saying, ha, 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 this is not legislative purpose, we are just harassing people, the court will determine that any part of it is a part of a legislative construction or deliberation. It doesn't even have to make, the Supreme Court ruled that the contents of the hearings and the pursuits of the hearings don't even have to make the final report. So trust me, I've read too much. And it's to me, if it finally settled in, this is the most egregious anti-democratic body that has ever existed in America. This committee is more powerful than Joseph McCarthy's committee. This committee is more powerful than the 9/11 Commission. This committee is more powerful than all commissions that have ever existed in American history. It was appointed by one party. There's no counterfactual narrative. So there's whole areas that this committee didn't ask me about that would have been valuable to them. There's evidence. I volunteered. Peter Duke took photos of agent provocateurs. I provided that to the committee, and every time I wanted to talk about agitators, I got cut off. Had there been actual Republicans on this committee, they would have said, no, we want to hear that. So this body is the most dystopian, authoritarian body that has ever been constructed in our government. And so it's a scary process, but just the answer to that question is no.
So I do want to address this, and I want to be careful how I word this. So you've said a couple times, and you just said that you were a victim of the people going into the Capitol. And while I know for a fact there were agent provocateurs there, I reported on it excessively. There were two people, at least that I know of, that were posing as OAN and Fox News reporters who are leftists. There were quite a few of those. However, there are people who entered the Capitol, who are up on the grounds, who are just it's your neighbors, it's your grandma, it's your friends. And I do think that that's a little unfair to people who were not being violent. I believe that if you're playing into that narrative, you're also you're entering their field when you do so. So many of the rumors that were going around about Brian Sicknick, about all of the chemicals and the bashing people over the head with fire extinguishers, all of that ultimately turned out to be completely untrue. And so I do think it's a little bit unfair to the people who were there under who might have gotten caught up in the moment, but who were peacefully demonstrating their right to protest, and are now being held political prisoner. There's a lot of victims of January 6th. So
there's a lot of people in jail right now, right?
Maybe I just wanted to say that, but I think
no, I appreciate it, and we agree.
People entering the Capitol were not the problem, and
they were the problem. They were. Now here's what I'm I was very careful with my words. I'm not saying that if you trespassed, you deserve to be convicted of a crime. I didn't say that. I didn't say that everybody entered who was violent. I simply said the people who entered the Capitol, either they were waved in, or they got caught up in the moment, or they broke in, did ruin my ability to hold my event. That's a factual statement.
Sure.
And the people, the 44 people,
and maybe we should go over that again to come back to what your event was, because there were plans in place.
Yeah. So if you chose to go into a building, time out. Even if you didn't chose, you still ruined it. You could have ruined it not knowing. You could have ruined it knowing. You could have ruined it and you wanted alternative things. But we never got to hold our Stop the Steal Lot 8 rally.
Right. Because
of what people were doing, which I consider childish, immature. Now, there are some people who got punched by a cop, and then, they're engaged in that, all that. By me saying that situation affected this other situation, I'm not casting blame, or I'm not casting a judgment on the origin of their actions or counteractions. I'm simply saying that literally, in a problem of physics, the problem was people who were doing something that they shouldn't have done. And so no one had any business going inside the Capitol. I agree with Roger Stone. And it was counterproductive. It ruined what Paul Gosar was in there doing. It ruined what Ted Cruz was doing. It ruined what Mo Brooks was doing. And it ruined what I was doing. And I wish it never happened. I believe that we were baited into it. I believe that then some rowdy people then were part of it. And then I believe that that the police agitated the situation. But then I believe that there are some people who were LARPing, and LARPers ruined my event. And those are the majority of the people. The majority of people aren't violent. The majority of people, whatever. I've actually had the possession where I don't think that any of the trespassers should be charged. So that's how extreme my position is. I believe that if you
I don't think that's extreme at all.
Well, I mean, if you entered it knowing that you shouldn't have, it's fair to be prosecuted. But as I explained to the committee, there's a lot of people who came to DC for the first time not knowing anything about anything, and they've seen on TV state Capitol rotunda protest, and so maybe they thought when Trump referenced the Capitol that we could go inside. And when I got there were no barricades. And someone piled them up very neatly so that I never saw them. So there are a lot of people who are victims themselves of the disorganization. Police failure, intelligence failure, agitators. But if we just say, none of the LARPers, none of the people who got overly excited didn't also ruin the plans outside, it's not truthful. It's like shilling for them. And
that's Patrick. Patrick Gunnels is watching. Hi, Patrick. How are you? Sorry. I just see his comment.
So I don't. This has always been my position, and Peter can tell you this. I'm not a neo-reactionary. I believe in being responsive, but I'm not a reactionary. I believe that the truth is the truth, and so I'm not virtue signaling to the left, but I'm also not going to take the exact opposite position of everything that they have. What I'll say is that we need a triage. Who was in there and why? If the government cannot prove that someone knowingly went in there, then they have no business pressing charges against them. Unfortunately, our government is doing that. So I do want to say, though, that the mom or pop that showed up knowing that they belonged at Lot 8 and instead decided to go into the Capitol ruined my event and made less legitimate our entire movement. It's not about me. It's that everyone else got swept up in it. And the last thing I want to end with is this. The 44 people who are still in the DC jail have it worse than me. And when I think I have it worse than all of the organizers and all these other people accused, but I'm not in jail. I'm not in solitary confinement. I'm not being disfigured through the mold and the beatings and everything else that's going on there. So I pray for those people. I've reached out to several of their lawyers to try to help explain the timeline because it's not reported. So I've done what I could. And if I had $5 million, I'd give probably half of it to their commissary and their legal defense funds. And
Do you think maybe you could use your, because I see this mentioned in the comments quite a few times. There's the 14,000 some odd hours of security footage in the DC area that are not being released. Is there? I mean, Grant, I'm just asking this kind of as just a me question. Do you think there's any way to use your need to, I guess, clear your name as leverage to acquire some of that? What? Just again, I'm going off script here. There's not even a script. But is there? What kind of strategy could we implement to get them to release that footage? Do you have any ideas?
Well, one, I publicly, called on it months ago, put out a press release.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I've been a big proponent of doing that. I have, I don't want to get too much into this because I know a lot of the opposition's watching this, but
hi guys.
I have part of the reason why I haven't done an aggressive press strategy is because I want something to trade. And I've told a lot of these reporters, when that 1,400 hours gets out, then maybe I'll have a better idea of what happened. I can comment with you. And so, I've seen the press slowly migrate its opinion on the 14,000 hours. And like I said, there's a couple of J6 defendant attorneys that I'm working with. And I would say this, we need to be very careful. Some of these attorneys, not that I'm working with, are Democrats. Some of them are incompetent. Very few of them are champions of us. And so part of the reason why people are getting screwed, and every plea deal screws someone else, everybody else, because then they have momentum and they have norms and all this other stuff. So it's a very complex question that's more legal than political. And I'll say this: with the committee's dealings, there's no leverage. I'm entitled to basically no rights. I don't get to see all the evidence. I can't request any of the evidence. I can't request a copy of the evidence. They presented evidence that I wasn't allowed to take outside that was related to me. So it sucks. But like I said, I am being sued in this civil lawsuit for millions and millions of dollars. And if the 1,400 hours isn't out, I have told my attorneys that needs to be a top priority.
Who's suing you civilly?
There are 7 police officers that said because they did not protect my Lot 8 event, I am in violation of the KKK Act.
Yeah, just to catch the viewers up there, I arrived in D.C., I think the night of the 4th. In the morning of the 5th, I went down to meet with Ali's crew, and they were confused and didn't have a schedule. So I thought that I would go walk the venue. And so I went to the Ellipse, and then I walked down the mall. I walked, I think, down Constitution Avenue, too, took some pictures of the Andrew Mellon Auditorium, which I've talked about on this show before. And then I went to Section 8. And Ali was there already with Alex Jones and Roger Stone, and they were on the steps of the Supreme Court. And just so that people know,
you said it's January 5?
This was on January 5th, yeah.
Okay. I don't think I was with Roger Stone at the time. I think he spoke at that Supreme Court rally after me by an hour or so.
Okay,
Just
but you guys were both there.
Were we? I didn't see him.
You were there because I was confused. I was confused because I had asked your assistants for a schedule and they didn't tell me that there was one. And then I got there just as you had finished speaking. And then I turned around and I walked back down the mall to Freedom Plaza just to catch the end of your speech there. So, I was kind of like out of sorts. But part of the reason that I went there is because I had a map and it had an 8 on it and said this is where the rally is going to go after Trump speaks at the Ellipse. So that was 100%. So when after Trump finished speaking and I made my way to what I call the backside of the Capitol, which is where that Section 8 was, Lot 8,
yeah,
whatever.
East side. What's funny is I spent all of Stop This Deal calling that the South side. So the people who got a text message from us in the middle of that conflict, and it said, go, it says, like leave the front or leave the north, go to the south. It was like I had no idea, even though I've lived in DC, that it's actually, as you're coming up to the inauguration side, that's west. Then as you're wrapping around, that's north, and then the backside is east, and lot 8 is northeast. But if you're walking up from the inauguration side through the north, and you come up where you're supposed to walk, you're actually on lot 9. You don't know that lot 8 is like another 50 feet this way or 75 feet this way.
Closer to the Supreme Court. Yeah. So
Because
CJ. I was with CJ, and we literally sprinted up the mall. Like, we ran. And because we had our lanyards, we got up to the gates, and the cops just let us in. So we were behind the barricades, and CJ and I went and we made our way to the place, lot 8, where everybody was supposed to meet. And just as we got there, a bunch of agent provocateurs started to disassemble the barricades. They started, and these are guys that I describe as high and tight. They had military haircuts and squared away, meaning their backpacks were pulled together. Yeah, there were a lot of guys wearing Carhartt. There were a lot of guys with beanies on top of their MAGA hats. I've told this story 100 times, and it's I'll go to my deathbed wishing that this is the photograph that I had taken, but I've explained a million times that time lost its relevance once I got to the Capitol, because there were so many things happening around me in so many ways. I couldn't aim my camera and hold the trigger down long enough to get pictures of everything, but there were literally people that were going up to the cops and screaming. There would be a person on one side screaming and yelling at the cop, and a person on the other side who had their camera and they were shooting a selfie of themselves saying, we back the blue, we trust the cops. So the reason I like telling that story is just because it was a bizarre moment. You had all of these kind of like aggressive forces over here and these kind of supportive forces over here, and they were all mixed together. And the cops just started to retreat. They just started to back up one step at a time. And I thought, why are they doing that? There was no pressure. It wasn't like there was a giant group of people and they were pushing up against the cops and the cops couldn't hold back. The cops were just backing up. They were just, they went up to the top of the stairs, and eventually the crowd just followed them.
It was surrealism. I mean,
Yeah.
It was, it's like if you weren't there, and I hate when people like make experience-based arguments, but I'm not making experience-based argument. I'm saying that there are tens of thousands of people who are dealing with trauma issues just to what they saw.
Right.
Now, if you were also in the crowd and you got hit with tear gas or other stuff, and I'm not someone who says, oh, everyone needs therapy, or oh, trauma this, trauma that, but even in my own dealings with the issue, and then having to, for the first time, be in DC again last week, my body started shaking involuntarily, and it was not something pretty. It was something very ugly. And watching, and I've been criticized because I've also said, well, simultaneously, there was also something very beautiful going on. See a sea of people is just beautiful. But to watch people that you care about climb up scaffolding that you're afraid is going to break apart and kill them is scary as hell. To watch people climb up like Spider-Man up stone walls is mind-bending. I actually thought maybe somebody swapped out my glasses and I'm watching CGI. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. And I'm having to text with the Trump campaign while deal with Alex. Alex and I are together, and he has a whole different understanding of reality than I do. And some of the stuff he's verbalizing, I'm like, all right, it's going to take Alex another 5 minutes to realize that's not going to happen, you know? Mm-hmm. And everybody has their own understanding of it. And I'm telling you, I saw no barricades the entire time. So you're talking about like 100 barricades or 150 barricades. And I was on the west, I was on the north, I was on the east, I was on all sides of the east. I never saw one barricade by the time I got there. And Alex and I left early, but got there after many people because he stopped twice to recuperate and then to give a speech. And then I think we accidentally went the long way. And at one point we broke out in a sprint to try to run, but Alex does not run for long periods of time. So I don't know. I don't know. I get why the left is so manic about this. And I get why the U.S. Capitol Police are about this. But there's a lot of fault to go around, including at the Ellipse. The Women for America First made sure that there were no instructions given to that giant crowd to go to Lot 8 and where Lot 8 was. I actually think that all of this would have been prevented had that happened. But the morning of, things happened.
Here, I've got a picture I'm going to share. Button. Share screen. There we go. Window. So, again, you said you didn't see any barricades. That's because...
Those were not there when I was there.
Right. Okay, they were up.
Wait. I just want to say, like, how logistically improbable this is. This just still blows my mind. If you told me people unhooked those, okay. If you told me people pushed those down, okay. Telling me that someone then went while the chaos is going and strategically piled them up is weird. It's like, it's beyond weird. And I'm saying someone would have had to pile these things up in different areas, because I was all over the east side. We tried so many ways to tell people maybe they don't know they're not supposed to be here. We're like, hey, people, come down. Someone was playing loud, heavy metal music on both sides. Who was that? How did you get a speaker that powerful? There's regulations on what type of speakers you're allowed to have on the Capitol grounds. So it's... Sorry, you showed the pitch. I didn't want to interrupt you. I'm just
that's okay. That's okay. What I'm just trying to figure out how to show more. So I'm working on that while you're talking, because I think it's important for people to know. Like I'm not proud of these photographs, because I'm somebody who kind of prides myself on making photographs, not taking them. And I was definitely in the taking mode, because I had no control, and you'll see that there's no craftsmanship, there's no dedication to my trade here, because I'm just shooting pictures. These are the people in front of me that I'm noticing, and I'm just like holding the button down as I'm going as fast as I can, so at this point, I don't think the barricades have been taken down yet on the back side of the Capitol. They've obviously been taken down on the front side, but that's a Capitol.
And none of the cops are pointing people where to go.
No, they're wandering back. See, they're right there in the middle of the crowd, just kind of like wandering back.
With them.
Peter,
Right.
I need that photo.
Okay.
That previous one, I need you to send me that photo.
I'll send you all of these photos.
Okay. I see someone. Thank you.
You see. Okay. And then there's this guy of interest with the double hats on, and he's coordinating with this guy on the right, who's, they're talking to each other about something. And you can see there's nobody on the steps of the Capitol. The police aren't at the bottom of the steps yet. And again, I'm coming to this place from Lot 8, where we were supposed to meet.
So Lot 8's behind you.
It's behind me. It's directly behind me, right? Because I went there and I got there, and then all of a sudden people started taking the barricades down.
And you saw the stage, Peter?
I went to where the stage was supposed to be. I don't remember seeing it. I was there the day before, and I saw a raised platform the day before where there was a women's group that was
That's lot
speaking.
9. That's lot 9. That's not lot 8.
Okay. It was mayhem. By the time I got there, it was mayhem. So let me see if I can make this continue to cycle through here.
If this crowd that was arriving there during the end of President Trump's speech, where did they come from? Where were they at before? Were they just
Well, these people were there before the speech was over.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So where did they come from?
Well, there was 250,000 people in D.C. I don't know. They weren't all at the Ellipse. So this guy with the black jacket
and many of them weren't. The police reports show that at 7 a.m. people are already at the Capitol.
Mm-hmm.
7 a.m. is just when we're starting to open up the Ellipse.
Okay.
All right. So this guy with the jacket and the blue jeans and the New Balance shoes, he was going around from barricade to barricade,
and just for perspective too,
unhooking them.
Only fit so many people. The overflow and jumbotrons only fit so many people. So a lot of people went to the Washington Monument.
Mm-hmm.
Some people went to the Capitol. That seems fine to me. It seems like to me that the agent provocateurs took advantage of people who were at the Capitol by starting to stage this, and they're timing it with earpieces on when Trump is going to end so that they can then blame it on the people who are just arriving. And by the wave that I arrived in, there's no barricades at all. And I think a lot of people who went into the Capitol, if you saw no barricades and a cop either waved you in or a crowd took you in, I don't think you should be charged, because you might have thought, oh, maybe the rally's inside, And anyway, keep going, Peter.
No,
and another thing is, it was my understanding through my consultant that there were not going to be any vehicles here. I entirely think that those vehicles were set up there as a psyop so that they could have the burning scene that Antifa and the counter-protesters did at the Trump's inauguration. There's not supposed to be vehicles on the plaza there.
So you could see the cops. This is the moment that I'm describing earlier, where there were people taking selfies with the cops on one side and people screaming at the cops on the other. But I was far enough away that I didn't.
Can I ask a question? Why is that woman wearing that?
Why is which woman wearing what?
The woman on the right.
She's got a Honeywell gas mask around her neck.
Why is she wearing that? I never saw it. I never saw anyone with a heavy. Let's say it's for COVID. I'm a guy who's been to a lot of. Maybe she's press, but I'm a guy who's been to a lot of Trump rallies and through a lot of Stop the Steal rallies. Never saw anybody wearing anything like that.
Isn't the Mary Kay woman? Isn't that one of the people that they arrested? I see this woman with a Mary Kay bag. I thought that I had seen that earlier. Anyway, yeah, I
Mary Kay Letourneau. It's like, all right.
There was so much going on when I was pushing the button. I was just trying to capture as much as I could about what was happening. There's no art here.
I think that's kind of nice sometimes. Like it doesn't really need an artistic.
Well, it's not like there was a choice. It's just
I know you're the Annie.
It's kind of like me. It's like it's like me showing my dirty underwear or something, But
I know you're the Annie Leibovitz of the alt-right. I know you gotta make us proud, but come on, man. Like,
oh wait, I think
it kind of captures the essence of the.
I think I've gone in the wrong direction here. Okay. I started hitting the wrong button.
That was a good eye on that gas mask, Ollie.
Well, it's just because it's like why do people bring backpacks? Why?
I mean, like the officers right there are like they're just standing there.
Yeah, and then those masks, and I'm just like, this is weird. This is just weird. Double hooding and like there's just all kinds of things.
Well, it's also cold for the double hoodie thing.
It was cold. Yeah.
It was ridiculously cold. Yeah, I can pull up the agent provocateur pictures too if you want to go over look at those.
Your show.
Yeah.
For the ride.
No, Lauren?
What? No. I don't even know I made that sound. Sometimes I just make noises, to be quite honest.
Why don't we take audience questions?
Yeah.
Or is it?
Mommy.
No, that's fine.
Listen,
I have a sewer down there.
No, it's not too bad. Let me see. Someone said, "Oh look, Sammy Davis Jr." So
Get that a lot.
nailed it.
That actually came up during my hearing.
Well,
Doesn't Trump call you Sammy?
Yeah, that's exactly what they asked.
oh boy. Yeah.
It's the only time we all got to share a laugh.
You've already answered a lot of these questions, asking where the money from Stop the Steal went. Again, like you kind of reiterated, the conflation between the RNC's money versus Stop the Steal money was, quite a different amount. And Grant, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but is there any sort of, do you have any sort of, I don't know, like breakdown of where the money went? I mean, I know that, you don't.
No, I mean we were spending it as fast as we could take it, and at the end there, donors of ours were generous enough to exceed the goals, and that was good.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a surplus, and I think the reason why I'm trying to be not coy but not specific is for OPSEC reasons. But let me tell you some of what I'm protecting, folks. Stop the Steal got unbanked. And it got unbanked in the middle of the committee investigating us. And so the committee wants records that I don't have access to. And so if I accidentally describe something here that I did not describe in my hearing, I will go to jail. And so, what I can say is this, again, as just someone who's been in a lot of causes, is the questions never come from donors. They always come from other people. And then when you debunk 3 or 4 things about mischaracterizations of money,
Mm-hmm.
they still relentlessly pursue it. And those people I'm not interested in talking to. But people who I donated $25 when I couldn't afford to. Happy to talk to those people all day long. I've got nothing else to do. My life is in. Conversely, we've had the opposite approach. People are saying, Ali, when will you start taking more money? Ali, how can I contribute to a legal defense fund?
I've seen that in the chat room tonight.
Yeah, so it's like people have to understand. It's like the trolls get mad when I know who they are, because I'm an OG of the political internet. A lot of people are new. A lot of people came after Trump or with Trump. I've been doing this since before Andrew Breitbart was popular, and so it's just easy to tell some of those people. And that's why I've tried to also give information about what we never spent money on. We never spent money on a salary. Ever, okay? Maybe 2 people ever got paid for their work, because one gentleman had 8 kids, and I needed to buy his time to do logistics for me and Brandon Straka and CJ Pearson and Peter and all those other people. And we paid him a couple $1,000s for his time.
And by the way, he charges a lot more money per hour than we were paying him.
Yeah, he probably got paid $5 an hour. And now he's got a subpoena, so it's not good. So we never spent money on a presidential suite. We never did luxury dinners or celebratory dinners. We never bought champagne. I don't think we bought alcohol.
On January 5th, you bought about 20 or 30 people pizza.
Yeah, we found the cheapest pizza we could buy. We bought pizza.
It was the only food that we couldn't go out and have dinner. Do you remember?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember the DC mayor, because some of those tweets have come up of crazy things I said, but we did, like a lot of people in the industry. We definitely spent tens of thousands of dollars on security. We definitely spent tens of thousands or more, maybe more, on flights and hotels. So I would like to say a majority of the money had to have gone to travel and people eating. And by the way, these people weren't making money. So like when Scott Pressler and Brandon Straka and other people were doing their thing, the rule was if Stop the Steal money gets paid through your thing, you can't put out your own donation link. If Stop the Steal doesn't, then you can put out your own donation link. And I'm just trying to think if there was any other big expense that would stick out or be controversial. I can't think of anything controversial. We didn't buy a plane. We didn't buy little advertisements. We don't buy billboards. Yeah, I don't know.
I was just curious if you.
Yeah.
But no. Thank
So
you.
I'm going to jump back. So here's your a Carhartt guy again. You could see the guy on the right there with his Carhartt
That's
jacket.
a very popular brand right now, though.
Yeah, I know. Look, I have a Carhartt jacket too.
I didn't even know what it was before I bought it.
I was wearing my Carhartt jacket. I'll tell you though, this is what a snob I am. When I bought my Carhartt jacket, I did cut the Carhartt logo off of it because I like the jacket, but I wanted to be stealth about it. So anyway, yeah, this guy on the right, he's pulling the barricades down.
That guy's definitely an operator.
Yeah. And then on the right side, there's the guy with the double hats again.
What possible credential? I think me and you have worked this out before, Peter, but that was another thing that we found is like people with fake credentials. How could you have a credential for events you didn't attend?
Right.
You know? But I actually think that one was some prior Trump rally or something like that.
March on the Capitol? Or this one that this Carhartt guy is wearing. Yeah, okay.
Oh no, yeah, he has like a medical card or something like that. But again, only someone would wear that on the outside if they were intending to look like someone who was an organizer.
Okay, so this is the guy that I call high and tight and squared away, who is standing on top of a vehicle. You could see the cops are kind of loitering at the bottom of the stairs. Nobody's moving up the stairs. The guys on the top are standing there with their...
So this is a southeast side for anybody wondering. I believe that's the Senate. Could be the Senate side.
But you have these people on top of the car that are urging people to rush the cops. They're screaming and yelling at them.
Or
and
you should use the words, it appears like...
It appears. Yes, okay. It appears. And then you can't see him, but you can see the back of him, his jeans, and we've got red beard guy on the right side there. And this is before they pulled CJ up on top of the car.
And by the way, in all the photos that I've seen of that day, he's the only guy with that version of the MAGA flag.
Interesting. And he looks deranged.
That's an America First flag.
The MAGA and the 45 in the corners?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and then there's March.
Oh, no, it's not. Never mind. There is a .com down at the
Yeah,
bottom
it says
of the flag,
somethinghats.com. But I'm just saying he was the only person that I've seen with that flag. And what I suspect, I'm not saying that the materials are fake, although I think a lot of the materials are fake. I think that they signaled each other using this type of stuff. So, look for the red flag with the 45 in the corners. It'll be the only one.
So you'll see in some later photos, but this guy with the red beard and the sunglasses on the right is wearing what's called a PL, a private line, which is an earpiece with a thin, transparent microphone. And he's talking to people while he's doing this. And again, you can see the cops are kind of loitering there, but these guys are urging people to rush. And look at the expression on this guy's face. He's just crazed. So there's the close-up on the credential that I was talking about earlier. Now you didn't know.
Can you enhance that, please?
Maybe.
Control and then scroll up on your mouse.
Maybe.
Or I don't know how to do
Well,
that.
I don't know if that'll work or not, but yeah. But I'll figure out how to make it bigger.
Here, send it to me on Signal, and then I'll display it. How about that?
Okay.
And for everybody watching the audience, I gave the committee these photos.
Interesting. I had not seen that before.
Yeah, the press refused to republish it. Yeah, no, these guys are not good players. It's not like
Gotta love our
he
media.
actually ran into some MAGA supporters, but the guy has an in-ear. It's a nude in-ear. It's very expensive. He's wearing this lanyard. My lawyer now, one of my lawyers believes that this lanyard was given out by people who took a bus because we found, I think, a family in Texas. But again, if you have a lanyard like this, why are you wearing it on the outside unless you want people to think you're an event organizer? This, if you study Black Bloc and Antifa, every Antifa Black Bloc group has one medic. This guy is a medic. He has medical scissors.
And he's holding his hand up. He's making a military. He's making a military. He's looking at someone and making a military hand sign. So I don't know enough about the military to know what this means.
They have different hand signs on how many people you want to move where usually. Like
there you go.
Something like that.
Nice and zoomed in for you.
What people need to know about this graphic is fake. This graphic was promoted by a rival group at one point, and then I think maybe the MAGA million.
Do you know the name of the group? It's okay if you.
Women for America First pumped this graphic at one point before there were any plans or whatever. And I think that Million MAGA March, which just is a collection of, Gen Z Zoomers that were, they never hosted marches. We hosted marches and rallies and things, and the Zoomers showed up and they wanted to do it under their own brand. And I was, totally supportive of anybody wanting to do anything like that. Sure. But what happens is I think they also use this graphic too. And so this graphic is like, it should not exist. There is no 7 a.m. at the U.S. Capitol event. There is none. There is no March on Congress event. There is none. This is a graphic that never should have been made, never should have been disseminated, and certainly never used as a lanyard where people thought they were listening to an organizer or anything like that. And so the graphic turns out to be one of the downfalls against us on the east side, because while the west side was chaos, me and Alex Jones are pushing people over the east side. We're walking into it just as it descends into chaos. So it's like if we had been there 10 minutes earlier, we could have stopped these guys, me and Alex, but we didn't. And so it's funny because some people have accused us of coordinating they think that Alex and I were in on some plan. We knew there were too many people on the west side, so we shoved people on the east side in order to overwhelm the east side when, video evidence exonerates us and stuff like that. But when Peter showed me these pictures back in February or something, I was like, OMG. It just says somebody who understands this area and events and how they work. I'm like, yeah, I could see how a lot of people got caught up in a thing that they didn't understand.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the guy making his military hand sign again. And I'll back it up. So he's going like this.
Yeah, they're pointing to somebody in the true east. So someone on lot 8 or 10 is my guess, and they're talking to somebody. And again, this guy has medical scissors, and he uses Trump insignia to cover up the cross, signifying that he's a medic.
Yeah, there's also I did it. I don't know if I can pull it up right now, but on his backpack there, being covered by the sign, there is a fleur-de-lis with a skull in the middle of it that I've blown up and tried to source where it's coming from. Let's see this guy, Dunk. I mean, clearly this guy's making some kind of.
And this other guy who looks ethnic, his scarf, his desert scarf, is a Marine's desert scarf, and I just want to point out to people again, like I hate the idea again where like we go hunting after everybody and we join the left on this. What's clear is that these people took an inappropriate position to overwhelm the cops, ruin the event. I think that was inappropriate. Neither one of their faces appears on the FBI most wanted list, as we've seen, and before
they're not in the Clearview database either, because I've checked.
So before, just so everybody knows, before Darren Beatty did any of his work, and discovered that Ray Epps was taken off the FBI's most wanted list and then not arrested, these two guys never appeared on. And look, I've heard that this woman is a pro-Trump podcaster.
Right, but they were pulling other people up on top of the truck. Like CJ, they pulled CJ up on top of the truck.
So I would just say I have great reason to find out who these guys are. At some point, you'll see a guy in a purple and orange, 2 different hoodies, get up on the vehicle with him. That guy appears in the balcony of the House or the Senate at one time, near another guy who did have a gun on the premises, but not in the Capitol. And so, to me, it's always been clear that there were agent provocateurs, that we could prove them, and that the FBI is stalling out when they want to tell the public.
And these guys clearly didn't want me taking their picture, because you can see that the guy in the plaid jacket is pointing to me.
Yeah.
And he's pointing me out.
And again, several of these guys have GoPros, so they're just capturing all these faces for what reason? You know, you didn't see that in December. You didn't see that in November.
We tried to figure out what was on this guy's phone, what he was looking at. And again, he's pointing at me, and the guy's agape. He's got his mouth open, like, uh-oh.
Sorry, I'm going down a very interesting rabbit hole right now.
Yeah. Now, there's the guy with the red plaid jacket, and he's doing this. Is he giving someone else directions? And now, if you look at the guy with the red beard on the right, he's got his hand up to his ear because he's talking on his microphone. He's talking on his earpiece. Let's go back and see if we can. Oh, and then there, if you look, you can see his earpiece on his left ear there. See it?
Yeah, damn.
So these guys are squared away, as they say in the military. Now he's talking to someone.
Why didn't they join the people that they told to rush the police, you know? Why do they all need a GoPro?
Right. And the guy in the red definitely looks like he's in full observation mode.
You know, I mean, just not a lot of Trump supporters who wear masks. And again, the people who are innocent and got caught up in this didn't even think that they needed to wear a mask to disguise their face going into the Capitol. These guys knew prior to any conflict that they would need masks the whole time.
Yeah, then you had a hang on. Okay. Then you had people, you know, this lovely domestic terrorist herself, you know, came for everybody. But very interesting what's going on over here at the L residence. I'm going down a weird rabbit hole. Sorry, that flag took me down a weird rabbit hole.
And why did it take you down a weird rabbit hole?
Well, because the URL on it takes it to a very weird and now sort of semi-defunct site that looks like almost like a parody of Trump supporters. It's still up, although it's changed. I just pulled up the archive. It's based out of Canada.
Interesting.
The registrar is in Canada, who registered the site. Anyways, I mean, this could be a whole lot of nothing, and I know I sound like a psychopath.
It could be our Five Eyes partners doing things that Americans aren't allowed to do legally.
Well, so they're carrying a flag from a website called AmericanPatriotHats.com. And this is the whole entire damn site. And there are plenty of places to buy, you know, flags like Trump flags and all that, but they got it from here. It says, "This is the most unique and hottest selling item at the rallies. Even our great president said, keep up the good work." No, he did not. And then at the bottom it says, "Attention all American patriots. We paint the American flag under the brim, so when you wear our hats, you hold our head up high. Hell yeah, we appreciate your patriotism." This just, honest to me, it looks like a parody. I feel like it's some sort of, I don't know. Again, I'm probably going to sound like a psychopath on the internet, but, you know, wouldn't be the first time. So
You chase all leads.
yeah, well, why not? Just interesting. Could be nothing. But again, I also don't want to. Again, from my perspective, I do think that, and I'm not saying you, Ali. I'm saying like the royal you. But like when you throw everyone under the bus who was there at January 6th. Again, this was people's like parents, grandparents, friends, neighbors who maybe. I mean, there's certainly it's a proven fact there were agents provocateur at January 6th. However, there were a lot of people that got caught up in the moment or didn't have direction and were just following the crowd, which is never a good idea, by the way. Never just follow crowds aimlessly places. It could turn out pretty poorly. But the political persecution of these people and the people who are still in solitary confinement over misdemeanor trespassing. I've seen a lot of the charges. I've looked through the papers. They're being charged with misdemeanor trespassing and disorderly conduct, and like those things are not. Those are usually fines, maybe a night or two in jail. There's absolutely no reason for what's happening right now, and not to mention, granted, this is just me being me, but I mean.
Well, there's a reason. It's politics.
Well,
it's
yeah, silly me. It's just, but it's not all a bunch of agents provocateur that were there. It wasn't just all Antifa. Maybe there were infiltrators, and maybe there were people there to stir the pot. But a lot of these people are just your average Trump supporter, and I love them. So that's all. Sorry they ruined your event and all that for sure. And I'm sorry it went that way, but
me too. I don't know. I mean, I love them too, and I love when people you can love someone and say they did something stupid, and
totally.
I just think that and again, no direction at the Ellipse event. Like we had all negotiated, and I think the president had assumed.
You keep mentioning that, and maybe you mentioned this before. What exactly? There was an event before yours that was supposed to give instructions or kind of guide.
Yeah, so where the president spoke was the Ellipse event.
Mm-hmm.
The permit was in the name of the Women for America First, or I think America Last, but it was an event that was all of us together.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got there in the morning, there was division in the Trump campaign. Mm-hmm. And the Women for America First actually called the police on half the Trump campaign and tried to get them removed.
For what? Do you know? Sorry.
I don't know, actually. There was just conflict over seating arrangements and all kinds of other stuff.
The VIP area, besides it being really cold, was an incredibly high tension, high stress moment, because everyone who had organized the event, who was in the VIP area, like, so the women, what's her name? Amy
Creamer and Kylie Creamer.
And they weren't in the area. They were backstage, I think. But there were a bunch of people. I think Ali was there were a bunch of people who were supposed to speak at the event that weren't allowed to speak at the event. Everybody came. There's people who
all
flew
the videos
across.
And all the graphics with the instructions scrapped.
There's people who flew across the country. They had speeches to make. They were told they weren't going to speak. All of the things just basically changed, and we were huddled in this area, freezing to death, not actually understanding exactly what was going to go on. And being kind of dictated to. And like I said, there were people who had flown across the country to speak that were told they weren't going to speak. And then other people were going to speak. And that you could cut the tension with a knife. It was palpable.
And here's the thing, again, and why I really hate some of the criticism is I'm a team player to a fault. I'm a team player to a fault. If I had listened to other people whose instincts were more correct than mine, like Brandon Straka or Roger Stone, then we just would have done something at the Capitol and, said, hey, Mr. President, you can go do whatever you want. But the president wasn't going to speak at just an event for Women for America First. He was not going to do it unless Stop the Steal endorsed it and was a part of it. And that's what I was told. And so, for example, when the president says we're going to go down and go peacefully to the Capitol, the Women for America First are sitting over there, way over there in a loser section, going, scoffing that the president said it. And I'm like, this was the arrangement. How could you not? Why would you be surprised that the president's following through on his word to us? We built this whole movement for him. And this isn't really about him. It's about us, and our votes. And he wanted to show respect for our movement. And so there's just a lot of tension. Like, they did not want me sitting right in front of the president. I'm sitting right in front of the president. They didn't want that, And so I just keep thinking, like, again, if Roger and me and Alex and Scott Pressler and CJ Pearson and Brandon Schrock would have been able to speak, all of us had planned on wrapping up with their speeches. We'll see you on lot 8. It's in between the Supreme Court and the backside of the Capitol. Everyone was going to say that. And I think that that's what people would have done, or a majority of people would have done. Instead, what happened, happened. And then again, there's subsequent failures. No barricade, few police, no instructions, no order disbursement, no National Guard. Call in the DC Metro Police, who behave very poorly, and then start spraying people. Like, it's like it took 10 things going wrong in a row, and all 10 of those things happened. So, like, I'm not going to crucify anybody who behaved poorly on January 6th. It's another day in your life. But I'm also going to say, if 9 things would have went wrong, we could have salvaged it. And I just think it was a moment where everything got revealed. Everything got revealed. And by the way, Trump's comments, not in the Rose Garden, but at his desk, criticizing and lumping everybody in and saying charge them all, I came out against the hour he said that. I was very critical of President Trump, saying you're lumping in trespassers with potentially violent people. And we didn't even know at that time how many people got violent or didn't get violent. Right. So I was very critical of Trump, and I think I cussed and everything, So I'm not. I agree with you. Is what I'm saying. In that,
good. Yeah. No. I mean, I cool. Go again.
Here, I want to kill this conspiracy theory right here. Somebody says, "Isn't it odd that Ali and Duke and George Webb are deeply involved in messing up the USA?" What are you guys talking about? I mean, and somebody else was saying, "Oh, I think Duke dumped Webb because Webb is a loose cannon." Look, people have different styles, and
I love the internet.
I agree and I disagree with Ali and George Webb about and Lauren about all kinds of things. And I like to describe myself as directionally aligned with people. I agree with it. Ali will tell you that in private conversations that we've had, he's told me about stuff that he's going to do, and I would question him on it about whether or not I thought it was a good idea. That doesn't mean that Ali does whatever I say or Peter does whatever Ali says. Like, we're grown ass adults here, so everybody's entitled. Isn't that what America's about anyway? Life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. It's like I can agree with 85% of the things that Ali wants to do and disagree with 15% and still be, in a room having a beer with him. It's not a problem, So let me just say one thing, and again, this might sound non sequitur, but I read this book a couple months ago, The Power Elite by C. Wright Mills, and he makes this differentiation between what he calls an American public. And in an American public, people like Lauren and Ali and Peter get together and we talk about our different ways of looking at the same event. Today we've been talking about January 6th, and Ali has one opinion about people who went into the Capitol, and Lauren has another opinion, and that's okay. It's okay for them to have different opinions, but that's the way America is supposed to work. But in theory, but what C. Wright Mills points out in The Power Elite is that we've been taken over by what he describes as a mass society. And in a mass society, instead of thinking, oh, Ali's got a point or Lauren's got a point. It becomes Team Ali or Team Lauren or Team Peter. And it's like you pick your rectangle on the screen and send your money there or vote for them or pick their side of the argument and the other people lose. And that reduces, it's reductionist, right? It reduces the number of logical conclusions that people can come to Fox News or MSNBC. It's like the world's full of different colors, and it's full of different ways of looking at the same event. Ali and I were both at the same event. I showed Ali pictures of barricades. Ali never saw those barricades. Do I think Ali is lying? No, I think Ali never saw them. I think that he either wasn't looking for them, or by the time he got there, they were gone. So you could speculate about Peter and George Webb and Ali and Lee Stranahan. Look, we all have different opinions. I consider all of these guys my friends. I try not to, my major criticism of Ali, and he'll tell you that right now, has been picking fights with people that I didn't think he needed to pick fights with. And I think that, those peoples are probably fully represented by the people who have been blocked in the chat room tonight. But, everybody's entitled to their opinion, and there's different ways of looking at the world. And to quote a famous police harassment victim once, why can't we just get along,
Well, I will say this. January 6th, really, the election and then leading up to January 6th was such a huge betrayal of everyone's trust. And then the way that it was handled, not that January 6th was a betrayal of everyone's trust, but the way that it's been, handled by the government and the media ever since has been a betrayal of everyone's trust. And it's been terrifying. And so I think that oftentimes when things are getting scary or when things are getting chaotic, it's people naturally want to look to find out the source of the chaos in their lives and try to cut it out, like excise it like a wound or something. But you can't. This is a lot more convoluted and layered than that. I will say this, and granted, I'm sure this is gonna be a very unpopular opinion with my community and with the following that I do have, but I have met Ali personally. He was there for me in a time when nobody else was, and stuck his neck out for me on on something that ended up getting canceled, quote unquote, and pursued by. And Ali stuck his neck out for me and helped me out with that in a time when literally nobody else would. And I cannot imagine that a person that did that for me, and I'm just me in my house in Alabama, I will never forget that. And if you're some sort of, double secret agent, you're fooled me. So there we go.
Well, thanks. I think, and it was because it's not, for me, I'm so ideological or whatever. Not ideological. You were working on an important aspect of an issue that I cared about that nobody else was. So for me, I'm such a coalitions guy. I'm like, it's like bring all these people in and protect them with whatever you can. And that's just been my, from the Brett Kimberlin saga to the Stop the Steal saga, it's always been kind of, my mode. And
just think about the book you'll write someday, though. It'll be exciting.
Yeah.
Exciting. So are you allowed to talk about how it went with the January 6th Commission?
I can say that it was 8 hours of adversarial questions, accusations, and lies, blue anon conspiracy theories. It started off very rough because the New York Times somehow obtained an early copy of my opening statement. And
that wasn't very predictable.
Yeah, and so when I got there, the committee didn't want me to read my opening, and I said, well, that's not my opening. I just got my opening 2 hours ago. So, my lawyers were making tweaks all the way up until 2 hours.
So somebody leaked an opening that wasn't your opening and claimed it was your opening, and then the committee said that you didn't need to do your opening because they'd already read it in the New York Times, the one that you didn't write?
They marked it as an exhibit prior to me getting there.
So you did or did not write the draft that they have?
Yeah, I think I contributed some to it, but my lawyers and I worked on it.
Okay.
And I passed it around some friends. I know it was, I don't
Sure.
think it was my lawyers. So, there's other people in the political world that I was like, hey, I want to get your feedback on. So
Sure.
one of my friends thought this was a good idea. And I want to tell, in the end, it worked out pretty well, actually. In the end, someone knew something that I didn't know. And so it appearing in the New York Times actually helped me. And because I got to tell my side of the story and in full. There were like 2 passing comments and there were 3 passing comments of the committee's view on me, and then 80% my word. So, in the New York Times, I've never had good coverage in the New York Times. So I'll take it. And,
Me neither.
And so
I'm the Annie Leibovitz of the alt-right, according to
Yeah.
the New York Times.
yeah.
I'm a banned account with a profane name. They didn't even name me. So there we go.
Yeah,
Love
so
it.
I'd say, it's really tough. And, the members were all there virtually, in and out. Cash Patel's testimony was going on simultaneous to mine. His lasted 5 hours. Mine lasted 8 hours. The press was obsessed with me and not him. And I just thought that was strange. I'm a private citizen who's never sought government office.
Obsessed with you and not who? I'm sorry. Who?
Cash
Cash
Patel.
Okay.
He was the chief of staff for the Department of Defense, former Devin Nunes employee who blew the lid. Cash Patel is the person who blew the lid off the Trump-Russia hoax. Very, very smart Indian American.
I was say I'm a big fan of his. So
Yeah,
cool.
He knows where some of the bodies are buried. And so he also complied with the committee. And he believes, like me, that the facts are all on our side, and that it exonerates Trump. And he also, is a lawyer. So again, I have some legal training, and he's a lawyer, and I barely survived. I think, still have to wait a couple months, and I assume he survived. So that's why, like my friends who were doing the 5th, I'm like, that's probably the right decision for a lot of them, if not all of them. And eventually there's going to be a subpoena with Donald Trump's name on it. And I'm really scared of what this committee is doing to this nation. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can say. There's a conspiracy theory that I said that 3 members of Congress and I worked to put themselves and their colleagues in jeopardy, and nothing could be further from the truth. Got to explain that to the committee. They were like, well, can you understand where people are coming from? I said, absolutely. I, in a video, days prior to January 6th, used the word schemed, past tense. And then when I get deplatformed, the liberal bloggers take that video and then post date it for like January 8th and act like I just recently did a live stream where I'm taking credit for January 6th.
What was the context of the video? What was said in it?
I said,
I mean, just like, like a sentence or two, whatever it is that they're quoting.
It's a small clip. I said, I'm the guy who came up with January 6th, and I came up with it after I talked with Paul Gosar, Mo Brooks, and Andy Biggs, 3 members of Congress. And that clip has been seen over 3 million times. And the liberals post-date it as if I did a live stream after January 6th, glorifying it, taking credit for it, and saying 3 members of Congress and I planned this. And what I'm actually saying is that me and Biggs had one conversation like December 13th. Me and Mo Brooks' staff, we talked about a dear colleague little. And me and Paul Gosar, who are very good friends, we thought it was a good idea for people to peacefully protest on January 6th. I synthesized those ideas, and because I'm a team player, I was giving more credit, honestly, than Brooks and Biggs deserved to them, because they were doing other efforts that coincided with ours. And so instead of people understanding that politics is a team sport, politics is a sport where you do credit sharing, which is, think about bills. They have co-sponsors and co-authors. I had to explain this to the committee. This is how politics work. It's not how private corporations work, but in politics, you have giant coalitions because it extends credibility and it's compound interest. Me plus Gosar equal not the sum of our audiences, but we get other people who are attracted by the super team. Right. Think about it. This is why you two do this show. So anyway, I had to debunk that to the
We are a
committee, and they
super
were,
team.
yeah, they pressed me, and they were like, so there was no conference call between you three and you. And I busted out laughing, and I was like, no, me and Paul Gosar talked several times on the phone, and
We had tacos once.
yeah, so Dr. Gosar and I, you know, he's a champion, and he loved everything I did, and I love everything he does. And so, but the other two got a little skittish and misremembered some things, and that poured fuel on the fire. And then it allowed people, horrible fat people located in Ohio, to then say, oh, Ali is trying to entangle his deep state connections with these members of Congress to take him out. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. And so what's funny is my lawyer, I'm gonna waive privilege on this one issue and say, when my lawyer finally understood everything about the members of Congress rumor and then talked to a member of Congress, he's like, so you, Ali, have spent this whole time with your reputation suffering because you didn't want to clarify because it would hurt these other members of Congress? I was like, yeah. And he said, I don't know why you love this country this much. It's treated you like shit. And I said, I just do. I'm just a believer in it, So like, again,
It's not the country that's treated you like shit.
You said
But
what?
sorry, I said it's not the country that's treated you like shit, but I get it.
Yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. The bureaucrats running this country have treated me like shit.
The technocracy.
Yeah, the technocracy. And it just is what it is. I'm happy to spend this month and next month kind of dispelling some of the crazy stuff out there.
So what is the, I should know this, but honestly, what is the potential outcome of this? They just write a strongly worded letter, or like what would the outcome of this committee be? Do you know?
Well, they have to end up publishing a report of legislative recommendations. I suspect that they are going to push for deplatforming. I also suspect that they are going to try to criminalize or regulate cryptocurrency. And I suspect that they are going to suggest that they put a wall around the Capitol. And I think that they are going to try to criminalize some speech that they consider violent or aggressive. Which
what's with the hit on cryptocurrency?
I can't go into details. I can just say, based off my exchanges with them and their deep interest in a lot of things, they
there's been a lot of media. There's been a lot of media pieces about it lately. I'm just curious if that probably
Give, Send, Go, and all kinds of other things came up, and it became very clear to me what was being targeted for their final report. But I want to respect the process. And
boo! I'm just kidding. I get it.
And so, but I'm going to tell people this. Whereas I thought this was a committee without teeth when it first came, they have left the democratization, and they do not care. And whatever threats must have been put on Merrick Garland to prosecute Bannon is the beginning of the horror that we're all about to go through. And this is all about stopping Trump 2024, and they may succeed. They may, breaking news, but they may actually succeed because they're looking for crimes. They're looking for paperwork you haven't filed, and they want to put all of the Biden administration's government against you. So, there's just 50 to 100 of us that they want to take out. And all they got to do is take out a couple of us. And it's going to be kind of like when General Flynn and Paul Manafort and Roger Stone had their problems. None of that had anything to do with Mueller's investigation into Trump Russia, but that's what more than half the United States believes, that those are 3 arrests or indictments or charges or convictions that happened
related to that.
Yeah. And so this one's a lot worse because they're getting private communications with the president and his staff that collaborates on ideas. It's going to be bad. It's going to be I'm just warning you guys, this is going to be worse than we thought. And I think that, so they'll do private depositions December, January, probably February. And I think they'll do public testimony in the spring, and they'll issue a report in the summer, and they're going to run on this as a midterm issue. The good news is the voters don't give a crap. The bad news is that they're going to push people to suicide, bankruptcy, and prison in the process of this. And Donald Trump should be getting ahead of this and not just trying to protect his own ass, but protect the ass of patriots who fought very hard for him.
Not only, yeah, hell yeah. Arlie Burt says Mark Meadows' lawsuit shows how the committee has no authority to issue subpoenas. Look, this is clown world that we live in, okay? This is unconstitutional. The Constitution isn't a document that's used to govern the United States of America. It's used to protect people who are breaking the law from being pursued because they have this idea that when you use this thing called an election, that it gives them social proof for what they're doing. It's all nonsense. I've said on this show before, about a month and a half ago, I unregistered to vote. I'm a dissident at this point. I don't believe that this process that we've been taught in high school civics is actually the mechanism that's being used to run the country. And so when people start quoting Mark Meadows to me or, some other...
Peter, it's a trap.
It's a trap. Yeah.
And I have to say this. God bless Steve Bannon and what he's doing. But that people who then got the idea that they can do the same thing he can do without that wallet. And he's invoking executive privilege. I can't claim executive privilege because me and the president didn't speak.
Yeah, so, he's a multimillionaire.
And so people are so confused right now. I'm telling you, if you're like me, talk to your lawyer and talk to other intelligent people. Do not try to be a hero, because they will send you to jail. Ignoring it. Congress has a ridiculous subpoena. Congress has a subpoena authority that exceeds the entire executive branch. Period. The Supreme Court's already ruled this. I can't control this. It doesn't even matter what the norms are, even though all of those are obliterated. So, it just is a scary time in America, and it's worse than anyone has described. People don't even understand the legal quandary that we're in is so beyond.
Well, it's super legal, right? It's super legal. It's the eye again on the top of the dollar bill. The law is for the people on the bottom. It's not for the people in control, and the people in control are going to step on the people on the bottom.
Congress has the authority to arrest you with the sergeant of arms. So people who are telling me this and that, one of their options is to arrest you without the executive branch. Are they going to do that? No. But that's the only thing I think that they're not going to do. They will do everything else because they can just call up the phone, Joe Biden, tell Merrick Garland to indict Bannon or get the hell out of the DOJ. And Merrick Garland, who all he probably does all day is get his own coffee, says, well, I don't want to lose my job. So, right. I mean, we are in a territory where the left is trying to provoke a civil war and the right is trying to stop it. And then we're arguing whether it's cringed or based, and it's just like,
It sounds like a good app, cringed or based.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Father, take me to heaven. I'm done with this place.
Well, with that, maybe we should wrap this up. Anybody else got any other questions?
I got to ask you one more because I keep saying in the chat, I don't mean to put you on the spot. Why do people keep associating you with the Lincoln Project?
Entirely baseless. Okay. Rick Wilson is a long-term sworn enemy of mine circa 2012 or earlier.
How'd that start? That's okay. You don't have to go into it.
Well, he just hated that I was popular. And I think he's a racist Floridian. And also he has this never Trumper and kind of woman that I was the first person on the right who said this girl's probably not good for us. And then she turned out to be one of those never Trumpers, but he hired her. And prior to Trump running. And I yelled at her at a party. Like Peter says, I get in some fights that maybe I shouldn't get in, but I'm always vindicated years later. And, but also, Ryan Girdusky is the person who broke the pedo Lincoln Project story. Mm-hmm. I'm the person who teased that story a month or two before it had ever been published. So if you were a founders.olliealexander.org subscriber, you already knew that Lincoln Project had a sex scandal coming for it a month and a half or so before it ever became public. that was part of the benefits that I gave my readers. And maybe if someone's in the chat room, they can vouch for me. So I'm sworn enemies with the Lincoln Project. The Lincoln Project has criticized me, and then all kinds of other things. The only thing in talking about this that I can think of is that John Weaver, the guy who's accused of the sex act or whatever, and I think multiple of them should have probably been a part of it, was on the John McCain campaign. He'd worked for John McCain for 2 decades or something like that. I've never met John Weaver. And
right.
so,
Well, you were early in your career. You were probably as establishment as you get, right?
I was very.
I mean, you were working for John McCain, right?
Yeah, but that's also working for congressional candidates that were up against the establishment and up against the NRCC. But what I'll say is, I was the first 2 years of my career trying to make a reputation and money. Like, what was I supposed to be doing? So it's but this is another part of.
It's perfectly acceptable to enter into a career, have a belief or ideology, learn new information, and have it change over time. I don't know why. Again, like that tends to be an attack on a lot of people as who they were 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And holy shit, I wasn't the same person. Literally, this time 365 days ago, I was not. I'm not the same person I was last year. Like
Ronald Reagan,
in a good way. Yeah. But
I was not. I was definitely not the same person on January 6th that I was on the 5th.
Me.
Yeah.
But no, what I was going to say is Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump both did more to help Democrats than I have in my entire career, my entire life. And so it's not like I had a late conversion or I came to the Trump train late or any of that other stuff. John McCain, and I'll say this today in the camera, John McCain was the better alternative to Barack Obama times 10. I have no regrets about opposing Barack Obama. I have no regrets. And John McCain was great on earmarks, great on spending, great on pro-life. And I held his position on war just up until last year. So, now, did I know that John McCain, the dossier stuff? When John McCain went to the Senate floor and did this on repeal, I was caught on a Periscope saying that he should fuck himself with an AIDS dick. So, the idea, that I'm some hack is like the hacks fear me. I'm one of the few people in DC who can go to the Capitol Hill Club and, feared more than I'm respected is what I'll say. And so, but yeah, that's exciting to answer. There's zero connection between me and the Lincoln Project.
Cool.
They hate my guts by name. I helped blow the whistle, and I was helping Ryan. I don't want to spread his business. He was a reporter, but I helped find him leads for people so that we could find a second source to the claims of the inappropriate sex acts. So it's just there's this woman who's psyoping the right. She did it to Sidney Powell. She's tried to do it to me. She did it to Alex Jones. Tori Lindemann in Ohio. Her husband's a child molester in their home. And she just wants to make my life a living hell because I stuck up for Alex when he was fighting with Millie Weaver. That's where all of this stuff comes from. I stuck up for Alex and Roger Stone when they got attacked by Millie Weaver and Tori Lindemann, and they will not let me live it down. And what am I supposed to do? Let good men go down? No, I'm not into that shit.
I'm looking at you, Lauren. I see a penny rolling around in there.
No, it's just such a weird spot to be caught in because I respect you, Ali, and I think that you're a great human being. I also have previously enjoyed Tor and Millie Weaver's work. It's just, I don't know. It's just I'm just thinking about it all, the conundrum of it all, because I like all y'all, but y'all don't like each other.
Yeah, and I'll say this: they don't like me because of something that I independently did. They don't like me because when they were fighting with someone, I said, well, this isn't factual. And then I became a target. And I don't go around talking about their dirty laundry that's true. They do go around talking about dirty laundry of mine that doesn't exist. And so, previously, I think all of Millie Weaver's work is good. And
I think Millie's brilliant. That's why, yeah, it's just such a weird spot to be in because, I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's like anybody who's in the business of journalism will ask, when Millie makes this movie about me that I haven't seen, but other people have seen, my lawyers have seen, it's like, well, why does she have to qualify it? You guys work in media. Like I just told Peter, like, make sure you say the word appearing. Why do all accusations around me have the libel-proof qualifier, the slander-proof qualifier? If you believe someone's a bad, evil person, and I'm this bad, evil person, then someone would have a piece of evidence that shows such. But if all you need is innuendo and gossip and idle speculation, then connection of dots that don't exist, then it's bearing false witness. And so, but I get it. I get why Millie hates me. She hates me because I took the opposite side of hers. And maybe that whole time I should have just shut up and let her and Alex Jones fight. The problem was Roger Stone was in the crosshairs, and Roger couldn't defend himself because he's deplatformed everywhere. So I said, hey, Roger Stone's not a part of some secret government or plot to take out Trump. And that made me target number one. I think that Tory Lindemann has taken advantage of Millie Weaver. And but yeah, Millie Weaver did only good work prior to Shadowgate. And then I'm like, Patrick Berge and Tory Lindemann are Democrats. And they have sordid records, and I don't want to like sully the show with it, but like it was so easy to dismiss them that I did that in August or September or October of last year, and then they waited for me to have a weak moment to pile on using leftist rumors, and that, you know, they'll answer for that before God. You know, on Earth they can have all the fun they want laughing at it, but the fact is that intelligent people who have heard me answer y'all's questions. You guys didn't give me these questions ahead of time. I didn't call Peter and say, here's what I'm able
making
to talk
them up
about.
as I go.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, I'm not afraid of the truth. I just think it's silly and childish and immature, but I do understand that it needs to be talked about. And I do understand that, you said it, our government betrayed us. Everybody's kind of paranoid right now. And we should review all players. That's a fair thing to do.
Sure. I appreciate your candor, and I appreciate you. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Oh, another thing. They said that the Groypers were the people behind storming the Capitol. You know, Tory Lindemann told that to Rudy Giuliani, and Giuliani told that to the public. You know?
Not the
and tried to get Bigfoot in jail.
Well,
stupid.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. But anyway, I am excited to announce that I'll be taking legal action against somebody in their orbit. My lawyer sent them 6 days ago a cease and desist on claims that I didn't have a stage on Lot 8, claims that me and Alex Jones and Roger Stone and Nick Fuentes plotted the Capitol siege in an insurrection. And we responded very aggressively, telling him to take that down. He has till tomorrow to take it down. If he doesn't, I'm suing him in Florida. And I will enjoy starting to take down some of this gossip bullcrap about me. I haven't wanted to go that route, but it seems to be the only way for patriots to be able to focus on J6 defendants, what parts of our government betrayed us, and how do we avoid this in 2024. I'm not interested in an Ali trophy or an award or anything like that. We've got to be laser focused on like these issues, and because I don't like Peter's position of not voting, I'm going to tell people to vote.
Yeah, I love Peter, but I don't agree with him on that one. I mean, I don't think we're going to quote unquote vote our way out of this.
Right.
But at the same time, but hey, you know what? Peter's always been a rebel. He's got his pitchfork on the wall. You know, you can do, granted,
with the scope.
He's in like the bowels of hell and like outside of LA. So like really.
Yeah.
Well, and I've been going stir crazy. I've been doing this entire show as COVID-19 positive. I've had COVID-19.
Peter's actually been dead for a week.
I've actually been on my deathbed for a week, just like I am right now. No, it's been completely mild. I'm getting along great, but I have cabin fever. I have actually been living up to the quarantine thing, just for my neighbor's sake. I think masks are bullshit, but there's no reason to just go get people sick for no reason. So I've been stuck here and doing this.
Occasionally go Lysol your air vents.
Lysol my air vent.
Just huff it. Just spray in a bag and huff it.
Yeah, I'm good. No, I had to run away because I had to get my Ricola.
Ollie, it's almost like he's still here with us. I can relate. Our good friend Peter. No, so Ollie, my friend Providence has a question in the audience, and again, not to put you on the spot, and I don't know if you can recall, but do you recall the first public-facing or kind of public statement that you made about January 6th, post January 6th, or like I guess, yeah, like was there any sort of statement released on like the 7th or 8th that just said, "Hey, what's up"?
No, I don't know. I mean, it took me a couple days before I got, like, I had Periscope, but not Twitter. I think I had Periscope for 48 hours or so. So I don't know what I would have said, I don't know,
When did you get deplatformed from Twitter? It's right after me, right? Or was it a little bit later?
I think January 9th. But
they moved quick.
It's tough to remember. It was weird because I was on a 12-hour suspension. Then it moved to 7 days, and then it was permanent, and then I knew everybody else was going to follow suit because Twitter was where I was almost most protected, is where I actually got to place appeals, and some of them worked, and so it's just like, then YouTube sends me automatically 3 strikes. I'd never violated YouTube's terms of service. Instagram, same thing. You just watch all of the teams go click clack click click clack clack clack. Okay.
Yeah, you really pissed them off then, huh?
Yeah, I'm off everything. PayPal, Venmo, it's like everything. I lost everything. I suck at being a Fed.
Me too.
Yeah, somebody commented earlier that I got away scot-free, and it's like, I don't know. I have 5,000 followers on Twitter. I don't know what I could be accused of, but I take pictures, and I use my camera to network and meet a lot of people. So guilty.
You're a cool cat, Peter Duke.
I'm guilty.
Rest in peace.
Yeah.
COVID.
But if Providence knows what I said, I'd love to respond to it.
No. He was asking that. So his actual specific question was, why didn't Stop the Steal, or why didn't y'all like put together a press release, to get ahead of the kind of narrative? And I kind of rephrased it. Sorry, Providence.
Yeah.
Providence is a buddy and part of my community. He's asking this in good faith.
Yeah, I would say that I didn't want to cooperate with the media or the left. I had no idea what had happened. There was a lot of pressure on me to put out a statement. The Women for America First denounced everyone. I refused to. And in fact, that's part of the reason I got banned, because on January 6th, I'm standing on the rooftop of 101st Constitution Avenue, and I said, I refuse to denounce this or disavow this. And I'm pointing to the people on the grassy lawns. But then I say, obviously, there's some agitators inside that I disavow. The left chopped off that second part, and that's what got me banned from Twitter. My refusal to denounce the folks. So I will say, there's no point in putting out a press release. And the Women for America First did it, and it blew back in their face with patriots and the media. So I watched that and knew I made the right decision not to put out a statement. And I wasn't going to put out a statement on behalf of the movement without talking to all of our other leaders. And everyone was just trying to get home. Some people are being denied flights. I'm trying to be safe. There was a bomb threat. This has never been reported, but there was a bomb threat outside of our hotel on the night of January 7th or the night of January 8th, and we fled the town. So like, people have to understand, I was literally running for my life. I was concerned about everyone else getting home safely. And putting out a statement would just help the liberal media, and I was not interested in playing their effing game. So I refused to go on CBS or ABC, and because the only way you get away from that alive is if you denounce your own people, and I'm just not into that. So,
Lauren, you have any more questions?
I mean, a billion, but I feel like we've been going for 2.5 hours. I really appreciate it. What about you, Peter?
I'm
yin to my yang.
What?
The yin to my yang. I don't know.
I'm thinking we've been going for 2.5 hours.
You can be
probably
the
wrap it up.
Really, we had no plans going into this, but it went down a lot of.
I mean, I knew
the winding paths, but I liked it.
I knew the job was dangerous when I took it because I know that you and Ollie are both capable of going for 8 hours.
Peter,
So-
do not even act like we have talked on the phone for like 4 hours before, and you're like, don't you blame me.
I'm not blaming. I'm thinking of our audience. That's all.
Well, it's all the real ones who stuck it out. Thanks.
Yeah, and there are a few trolls too, but
We love you too.
Yeah.
yeah.
I think, yeah.
As long as you're not making aspersions. Well, anyway, I noticed last time I looked at YouTube, like we're within a couple of hundred of like getting to the magic 1,000 where we could do super chats and things
That's
like that. So I will
Smash that like button. and
smash
follow
the
us.
like button, subscribe, tell your friends.
You can subscribe and then never watch it again, but it helps us out.
And
so.
let Tori Lindemann know. I know that we only have 14. This is how I know this channel is like suppressed. Is that I took the Lynn Wood, Patrick Byrne phone call off of Telegram last week and was the first person to make a video of it, putting it all together. I put it up on the Reality OS channel without comment. I'm not making any editorial comment, just for people to consume. And then in one of the comments, I saw that Patrick Byrne had directed someone to the video, and we still only got 1,400 views. So we had Patrick Byrne pimping it, and only 1,400
Did you put it
people
on
watched
Rumble?
it. Haven't put it on Rumble yet. No.
If I would leave your audience with something, Lynn Wood has said some untrue things about me. So I spoke to him. Yes, we spoke yesterday via email, and I think he has some more clarity and won't be saying bad things about me anymore.
Look,
You sound like a Bond villain right now. I'm gonna be honest.
look at this guy, Andy Moore. So Duke says he's a small fry. No, I'm not. I'm not saying I'm a small fry.
The Orange Revolution. Oh, here we go.
He gets a golden ticket. I got a golden ticket because Ali knows that I'm a good camera guy and that I would do a good job of immortalizing the entire event, which I think I did a pretty good job of. And there should be some news.
You got great photos.
There should be some news about a book in the near future. We're still trying to figure out what that means.
Ooh. I want a signed copy.
Yep, signed copy. And if anybody who likes it wants to hang any of my photographs on the wall,
And by the way,
yeah.
that's the reframing, right? I've tackled all of these questions with truthful statements and statements that have timestamps so people can go back and see if I'm telling the truth or not.
Mm-hmm.
Or they can see with witnesses, who are familiar with my career in the chat room, whether people can vouch for something or something's not vouchable and requires more investigation. And so the reframe will be, well, Peter and Lauren were too light on them, or they're in on it. And I'm like, that's just malicious,
I'm going to say goodbye to Andy.
Yeah.
I'm going to say goodbye to Andy.
He's got some good theories. It's entertaining.
Is that all you got? It's Andy, what have you paid me for?
Yeah.
We should all be on the pursuit of truth.
we should probably end this show before it gets
All right.
sassy.
Indeed.
It's
All
fun.
right.
See you
Well,
next
thanks.
Sunday.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you later. I'm out.